We'll get started. It is 6:59, 7 o'clock on Thursday, January 11th. This is a meeting of the Mendon Conservation Commission. My name is Carl Hummel. I'm the chair. We'll now go around and introduce the rest of the members.
Bob Sweet.
Leah Whiting.
Tim Icardi.
Tim McCarty's on Zoom and our conservation agent.
Isabella Genova.
Okay. We typically hear things first that we have representation from professional engineers. So we will skip ahead to agenda item number 4, 4549 Uxbridge.
No, we're gonna wait for
Oh.
John Dienart to come.
Oh, he's going to be coming later. Never mind. Okay, well then I thank you for overruling me. Someone else. It's like he's here for the same thing. Okay, well, in that case, do you have an idea when he's going to get here?
He said probably after 7:30. Yeah, so.
Okay, well then we can go through the other things that we have members of the public for first. I guess we can go in order and do 13 Bellingham. You want to come up to the microphones?
Yeah.
Yep, and when you're talking there, the microphone's
Just gonna sit next to me.
okay.
Hi, Peter.
Peter Coffin arriving. So. Isabella, when you're ready to give the background on this.
Yeah, so we received a couple of complaints from the public and eyes from the commission, just of work being done in the property of 13 Bellingham Street, within the 100-foot buffer zone and potentially being unpermitted work. So we
Okay.
followed up with a site walk and yeah,
Okay, who was on the sidewalk besides you?
me, Bob, Leah, and Peter
Okay.
attended the site walk on
people who were
Tuesday.
here. All right, so can you bring up the Mass GIS locus and show or one of the other pieces of documentation? You now have Mike Amandalia joining us.
So here it shows the corner of the house with the wetland very close within.
It's also priority habitat, all of that, but not on that one, but.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't at the sidewalk, so the three of you what were your observations and recommendations for what we asked the homeowner to do?
It's been a problematic. It was the fifth lot of,
Move up closer to the mic.
it's a problematic site. It was the fifth lot carved off of the farm field and it's kind of tight. Yes, we in town have 40,000 square feet of upland. And they have that, but some of it's across on the other side of the huge wetland. So we felt the commission felt they had the right to build the house. I don't know if do we have the plan of the original? If you could put that up. We don't have it
I don't-
electronically.
I don't have it on computer.
We have the as-built. So there was a single family house. We gave them the envelope 75 feet from the wetland. Or 72 feet, I think. I get them mixed up. The actual house corner was like 75. So the house was built according to plan.
Yeah.
In the back, there would have been a line of hay bales. The do not disturb. I don't know where that line was. I would have thought we would have given them at least like 25 feet.
Yeah, probably.
So that would imply like 50 feet from the wetland.
Do we have the original filing?
What do we have to show Mike? Original
Well,
file?
yeah, so Carl, I mean, we have an as-built and we have a proposed plan that was in the file.
Yep,
Both of them show the distances in footage from either the corner of the house to the wetland delineation or on the as-built and on the proposed, when they built the house. It looks like, I went in and viewed the file. It looks like the proposal was a little bit closer to the wetlands, I think, but when the as-built was generated, and it's right there on the plan, it showed a little further away, but it's, I don't know where the wall is in relation to the wetland flagging. Maybe, Peter, I don't know if you looked at, was
No,
the
but
flagging still up?
Thank Tim, my memory was way bad. We gave them the permission to build a house 28 feet from the wetland. 28 feet.
Okay. All right. Well,
That was way back.
the as-built, that as-built shows it, I thought it showed it 35 feet after the
Right,
as-built.
it showed it a little bit, but whatever. We also gave them the right to build a deck, which
Okay.
the post was supposedly 20 feet. But from that post to the disturbed area where the wetland should, the hay bales, it looks to me like it's 5 feet and maybe 10 feet off the corner. So this plan would not have allowed them to do any fill further than, well,
Yeah.
we'd have to translate what that looks like. So that was the original house, right? When it
Yeah.
was built, I guess after we'd given an order of conditions, Joyce had complained to me about why that house was built, shouldn't have been built. It was in a wetland. When I went to look, they have trouble. Drainage from the street, right? It comes down both sides of them. They're on the lowest side.
Oh.
From when the house was, yeah, originally the water wouldn't have gone into a pipe. It would have gone sheet flow, country drainage. I don't think there's a curb on. There's no curb. So they're at the low point. I had concerns with erosion getting away and getting into the wetland here, but that got fixed or graded. So the house gets built, gets sold to a couple that lives there a couple years. Somewhere along the line, someone asked for permission to put in a pool. So there is in our records just a sketch, crude sketch showing a corner of a house and a circle with no dimensions, no how far from anything, but showing it would be kind of on the right-hand side in the back. So
Peter,
yeah,
is there a negative determination from our board for the pool?
I don't know. I was on a boat to Nantucket on Zoom and I don't remember hearing about this
don't
because I
remember
knew this was a problem site. It doesn't
never
show up in the
yeah.
minutes, but you refresh my memory as to what happened.
I don't remember ever seeing anyone come to us for a pool there. I don't know about you.
There's a building permit.
Well, no, he's talking about the pool.
Yeah.
That's after the house was.
But they would,
Well, that's the
yeah,
question.
they would have
No,
came to our board.
There is a
for-
open building
Yeah.
permit for the pool,
Yeah, there is.
On
I've seen it.
building permit.
So
Okay.
somebody got a building permit, probably because somebody on the commission said it wasn't an impact. I don't know. Our records don't show anything. So that's before these poor people bought the place. This couple.
So can I just ask one more question, Carl?
yep, Tim.
Were the guys that went out on the sidewalk, I did not go, I just looked at the plans. Is the flagging still up on the trees where the bordering vegetated wetland is located?
No flagging, no
No.
nothing. Of course, it was covered with snow, but these
Here,
people, I believe,
I have a video of today,
Yeah,
so
okay. all right, they brought in some fill in the back and some riprap, which, in my mind, I can't go by this because this is so tight. I'm not sure. I didn't realize the wetlands went that far. This says the wetlands are only 27 feet from the house.
Isabella has a video from this morning, so is there any flagging on the video?
no, there's no flagging, there's no sediment. So that was,
Look at that erosion right there, boom.
yeah, so this was on the site walk when you pointed out there was
There was a little depression
Yep.
there, and that's the, yeah.
so that's that.
They filled the tree in.
So that wall is relatively new, right? That little stone wall?
Yes.
Yes. But that's not the problem. It's the problem, the other side of the wall with the riprap slope there. And there's the wetland.
Is that all washing into the
The
wetland?
wetland is right basically to the, almost the bottom of the riprap. Then there's a little fire pit and there's a pool. Pool's not as much of a problem.
I don't know, look, you'll have to keep watching.
Yeah, so this was taken
Today,
today?
And so is it higher water than normal today, or is that normally where the wetland sits?
No, it's
That's
higher.
high. That's,
So
we've had a lot
can
of.
we back up just a little bit?
Yeah.
I apologize for coming in late. But what's the issue here? Can we start at the beginning? What's the issue
The complaints about fill in the buffer.
from?
There was never an NOI or any kind of
RDA.
RDA brought in before us, before all the work was
He's
done.
asking who the complaints came from.
The complaints came from Joyce on the Board of Health, and then board commissioners Leah and Bob have also
Joyce
complained.
Gilmore from the Board of Health,
Yep.
let us know there's a potential violation
Yes.
and we went out and investigated it.
Bingo.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also visible from the
Alright.
street.
So these poor people,
Yeah,
they bought it without a realtor. I don't know if they know about the wetland, that you're not supposed to do any work within 100 feet. But you tell us what you know.
I thought that was like, was done between like whoever built the house and, with you guys, you know what I mean? So I didn't know that I need a permit to do anything in the back of my house, you know what I mean? So.
oh, you got it, okay, good.
I would say the good thing is when I walked the site today, you know, you see some sediment along the riffraff. But walking in through the wetland, you know, there isn't obvious sediment sitting there. I don't know if it's been washed away.
No, the
quickly-
riprap is pretty good. The problems are the gully's making up. And slowly it'll fill in, but
If you look at the pictures, the rocks are sliding.
yeah, well, it's gonna, but
Yeah.
it's not suffering erosion from the bank, from flow. So it's just gonna be settling and or the water's gotta go somewhere, right? So it's going to the lowest spot. And especially since there's no grass or anything, it's cutting a gully. That's
so what we're looking to do is to help this homeowner
fix a problem.
fix the problem,
Yep.
okay?
And the second thing we want to do is make sure that we tell them, if you want to do this, you can. If you want to do that, then you have to come and work with Isabella on making sure that the paperwork is done correctly and that we have a chance to review your proposal.
Can I ask a question? What can we do presently to stop the erosion? Because that's what I'm worried about. We're getting another 2 inches of rain. And,
Put a silt fence around the bottom.
okay,
Water was something.
yeah, something, because there's
You
nothing
get the
there.
hay bales and break it up and fill that gully in. That's the simplest, quickest.
Well, I think there's gotta be.
If it's a
hay
heavy
bales and
washer,
silt
it-
fence.
Excuse me? And silt fence up and down, but you want to get
Wait.
cover on that raw dirt.
I,
So spreading
I agree with Peter,
hay or straw.
the quickest stop measure would be to get dozen hay bales, break it up and start in that gully and spread the hay on the slope.
And cover everywhere there's raw dirt at this
Yeah.
stage. You'll have to clean up next spring before you lumen seed or.
Well, the good news is that the hay will deteriorate, so it's not like.
Yeah, it's just composted, it's fine.
And you have to be sure to get,
I think
you need,
let's try that
Yeah.
as an initial, as a stopgap. And then I believe you should probably, I hate to say it, you're gonna have to invest a little bit of money in an engineer that's say, okay, how can we make a long-term fix here so
That
this
slope
doesn't
is
happen
very
again?
steep.
can you talk about the difference between hay and straw and why you get one and not the other?
It doesn't matter in this
Doesn't matter.
case.
Not in this
Just-
case?
Straw
Okay.
doesn't have seed. People don't want seed in their lawn. You're not worried about that.
Yeah.
You just want the cheapest, and straw is dry. I'd rather have hay, but
I'd rather have hay, 'cause hopefully,
it's heavier. It
You
holds
probably
together.
won't- I mean, this time of year, it's hard to find.
Yeah, it's hard to find straw. I wouldn't go
Yeah.
with straw. It's,
Yeah.
I'd go with hay. People have horses. And they can be old.
Hey, we got 3 months this year. It's probably a lot of hair, you know?
So I think, I think if you do that, then investigate an engineer.
There's gotta be a silt fence there or something though.
I have a question. Now, we have the 25-foot no disturb zone, which is obviously not this case.
Obviously, it's been disturbed, so that,
So we want to do anything
what
about
we're
it.
trying to do is stop a problem before it gets any worse.
Right, but excuse me, I believe they're gonna have to hire an engineer or a surveyor, come in with a plan. You have two options. One is to take out everything you put in.
That's within 25, 50.
Well, the house is within,
Well, yeah.
oh, it's like, and they're not, they're entitled to have this here. They're not entitled to raise this up a couple feet. So if they want that entitlement, my sense is they would have to file notice of intent and get a professional to design, someone's gonna have to fix that slope. You're right. It's a steep slope. I don't like to approve more than 3-to-1 slope. It's, others, it has to be a reason. This is the reasons. It's more aesthetics. They want a nice flat backyard. I don't fault you. And we've had this argument as to how much, but
Right.
so that's
But
enough.
again, right now, there's a problem.
Yes.
Let's help these people try to stop the problem. Hold it at bay so that they can come up with a plan to fix the,
I do think there has to be a silt fence.
does that sound
Something.
reasonable to you?
Yes.
Scott's not gonna do it. That's at all.
Okay, could you two talk about why you don't think the silt fence, okay, this is Susan Cahill and she showed up late. She's on the commission as well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, at some point when you go to do more work, yes, for the stopgap, I think maybe a little riprap and the straw, or not straw, the hay would do just fine. Because, we're experiencing weather we haven't experienced before here. So,
The slope
Part of
is
this
really steep though. That's the only thing. It's a very, very steep slope there.
It is, but the good news is it's flat to that. That's what they built. That slope is to allow them to keep a flat. So if they come back within a plan within, say, 6 weeks, that we can have a couple weeks to review so
Yeah.
that they could take advantage of the spring season, first thing, April 1st or
Yep.
whenever, and get some seed growing and do something about that. I would not support a riprap slope. So I usually like the 3-to-1 is kind of what you can maintain if you want to mow it. Or if you want something steeper, go with some organic, plant some nice shrubs to leave the riprap there. Yeah, eventually it'll fill up, but that'll be years and
okay,
Peter, would you support a terrace step kind of situation?
Like a retaining wall?
it
Sort of
could be,
ish.
Like a
yes.
3-foot knee wall and then come in a little bit?
I'd rather let
Mhm.
the engineer do their job and not
Yeah,
us tell them what to do.
Can I ask one question? Just a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know what the fill was? What did they use for fill? Were there a lot of rocks? Was it just,
We use most of the fuel, we took out of our yard because it was a pile over there, you know what I mean?
okay.
So we make that part flat and we grain the backyard. That's what we did.
Okay.
And of course, we bought some fuel, but it wasn't a lot. But
Mike, can I ask you a question? When you fill things in, if it's just dirt, is that not stable or?
You're supposed to do it in lifts and.
Do it in lifts, the stones give it, and
Less
kind of
compact.
an aggregate, so it helps hold it together. Just regular dirt, yeah, you can pack it down, but there's,
That's pretty self-settling. When I was walking on it, 1 or 2 were loose, but no, that's not gonna.
the stones have settled into, gets a little muddy, the stones settle in and stabilize, it will get hard.
But how much stone is there? Is that like, because this shows,
There's
it's like
one that
3
doesn't have
feet or
stone
something.
in
I don't know
It's
what.
not relevant to the.
Not really, okay.
Okay,
You'll tell
here,
people.
here is a statement I'll make and people can correct me or not.
Mhm.
My understanding of the Mendon bylaw and the Rutland's regulations is we could, if we
Yeah.
were feeling
So that's right.
obnoxious, ask them to remove the fill.
Mosquito, or-
I
that's
don't think there's an interest in the committee of doing that. Instead, we want them to
2018.
hire an engineer instead of an excavator and then come back to us
If you go.
working with the
sidewalk
engineer and the proposal.
folder.
The engineer can call up Isabella and talk with Isabella. Isabella can pass along to the engineer the feedback that they're getting on slopes and whatnot. The engineer could also help you figuring out if you, where you might go and get straw and the best way to apply the straw. So is this something that you're comfortable doing?
Yes.
Okay. What we would ask is when you retain an engineer, reach out to Isabella either via email or the phone number on the Concom webs page and let her know who the engineer is. And Isabella will talk with the engineer and when we'd expect, the engineer will say how busy they are, when the engineer would expect to be able to come before us with the plan.
Okay.
But we definitely want to get something from you by the end of February.
It's good. We want to try to work with you, to alleviate the problem. That's the main thing.
And I appreciate that.
Carl, can I ask one more question?
I'm sure you're not like in this situation, so.
It's ugly.
Beating you over the head with a stick.
Okay, go ahead.
Can we ask them not to do any more work there unless it's, you know, the engineered work?
Yes, and that should go without saying, but you're.
Well, here's my question. There's a gully. Do we want them to fill it in or just?
Trying to fill in
Yeah,
with soft, with hay, stuff that bad baby in. And then if you really want, you get jute netting. And it's like a bandage. It's like gauze bandage. And so, you know, the hay is good once it gets wet. The wind is not gonna blow around. The
Yeah.
hay, if you step on it,
If you talk to an engineer who is experienced in wetlands protection and wetlands issues, they would know exactly the kind of stuff Peter's talking about. They'd come out to your lawn and look and they'd have recommendations and say, well, for this much money, you can do this and then you can do this, and they'd give you the range of options.
well, and when are we calling for the next rain? Because I would recommend you do that tomorrow.
Saturday?
Right.
Saturday. like,
Yeah.
So I would recommend you get at
3
least
to 4 inches.
one hay bale and fill that bad boy up. While you're at it, get a few more. Depends on your car.
All right, I don't think we need a motion at this point. Instead, we have an expectation that by the end of February, they will at least have hopefully by the end of January, you'll have an engineer, and by the end of February, we would get a plan from the engineer and we'd schedule a meeting. Isabella and the engineer would figure out whether we needed an NOI, a notice of intent application, or a request for determination of applicability. And they'd work that out and tell you how that paperwork goes. All right, anything else? All right, we can close this agenda item. Thank you for coming before us, and we look forward to working for you in the future. I see John, not John Neener is now here. Are we ready to talk about 4945 Uxbridge? Okay.
Stay there. Oh.
If you're there, right.
Yeah.
You have the road.
That's the last one. They were all built there and this last one's got the short
You
stick.
bring up the house bill that we got.
Nice to meet you. Did you remember you took gaming plates?
How are you? Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
If I risk yours, it's if I will, I'll ask you. It should be all right. John Nana with Route 85 Realty. I believe everybody knows where the site is. It's the old Rat Skate Park down 4549 Uxbridge Road. It's currently on a construction site that's in full swing. Most of the site is ledge, colored glacial till. The camera in there pretty much all summer. The site's very dynamic. We have a upper wetland banner that that used to run in front of the building, empty right here and come down into a lower wetland. We've gone through, had a notice of intent filed to do a parking lot here. I had Gary and Helen go out and put a full out of all our erosion control measures. DEP was on the site, I believe, 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago. And then they were on the site this past Friday to look at everything we've done for erosion control. Colin and Isabella have been out at least twice, I think.
Yep.
Twice to look at the site. So it's kind of a dynamic site. I'm out there after every storm. Originally, we started with just silt fence and straw wattles up along here to here, then silt fence up around the back portion of the site, which is just the area that we're crushing ledge in. And then down across the original stream bed where we installed a pipe underneath for the Hall Road and access road for the site. We installed the pipe across the access road here before we put in the main culvert that's going to do this wetland crossing. This area of the wetland crossing has not been disturbed. There's silt fencing models on both sides. To protect that area. On the side of that, so what we did with all the heavy rains, this has been a crazy, even over the summer, we've been getting heavy rain. So this has been evolving through the summer. We've dug out a temporary basin here, so the stream now flows into this temporary detention basin. Any silt gets caught in there. For the outfall of the basin, and this has been evolving. Originally, we had the basin and we had the pipe underneath, and we just had a small check dam in front of it with silt fence and hay bales. Since that time, we've gone and we've placed, we've been doing envelopes with 10 McCarthy filter fabric, non-woven filter fabric. We've wrapped 3/4 inch stone in the 15-foot filter fabric, and then with 3-inch stone on top of it to hold it in place. There's currently 6 rows of that in front of the outlet now, with a higher dam in front of it. We built that dam up with the same system with 3/4 inch stone wrapped in filter fabric, 3-inch stone on top of it. So now we have about 3 feet of leeway before the water will come over. The stone with the filter fabric does allow the water to penetrate slowly, and it filters. It's going through 7 rows of filter fabric. We're finally getting clear water coming out of the detention basin. So there was a lot of fines in the water. It was getting suspended. So when we first started, we had silt fence and wattles, but the silt was going right through it. So we did a 2nd row of silt fence and wattles. Silt was still going through it. We did a 3rd row of silt fence in this lower section. The silt was still going right through the silt fence.
And that's
So
what we saw in December.
Yeah. So then we started doing plunge pools. So after the water leaves this, we have a check dam, once again, made out of the 3/4 inch stone wrapped in 15-foot of filter fabric with 3/4 inch stone on it. So the water that comes down the hill has to go through that. It's directed through a spillway into a first plunge pool. Through that plunge pool is another check dam with 3/4 inch stone wrapped in filter fabric with 3-inch stone on top of it with a spillway. Flows into the second plunge pool, same thing with the check dam and filter fabric, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and now we have a bigger one at the bottom with a full spillway there. Even with all that and it took a little while for the filter fabric. So the way the filter fabric works, it starts to get clogged up with fine, so it starts to filter more and more and more as it gets clogged. So it took a while to get the water. It started to get clearer, but we were still getting suspended solids in it. So I think a week and a half ago Goddard suggested that we try flock blocks. So flock blocks are blocks of a flocculant. And what it does is it helps take the suspended solids, the small stuff out of the water and settle them out. So we currently have 24 flock blocks now in this system. We have 4 where the stream comes in. We have 4 in the first plunge pool, 2 in the second, then 4, 4, 4, 4, and 2. For a total of 24 flock blocks. Since we put the flock blocks in, the water's clear. You can see the bottom of the plunge pools. You can see the bottom of the detention basin, which wasn't the case when you guys were out there the first time. The water was turbid, even though we had these plunge pools all set up at that time. We couldn't get the silt to come out of the water because it was so fine. So now we're in control of it, where you can see the flock blocks in the bottom of all the pools. You can see the bottom of the pools. We're no longer getting silt that's so fine that it's going through the silt fence. So DEP was out there Friday. He was very pleased with what we've done. I think, I don't know if he talked to you, Gary Dumaine from DEP. If you talk to him about this latest sidewalk, I think he was pleased. He had no really, he said he felt we were doing everything we could on the site, so. That's my.
Right, so it sounds like the immediate problem is in place. The immediate problem has now been taken care of, and the evidence of that is you're now getting clear water flowing into the wetlands. In terms of monitoring going forwards, Isabella, have you worked out a schedule where you're getting reports on a regular basis, or are you planning on making a site visit on a regular basis?
We can speak to that. So
Okay.
Scott are consulting. So after our initial site walk, we went out and we are currently putting together a full SWIP plan for the site. Owen, he's pulling it together. He's a certified SWIP inspector.
What's SWIP?
Um,
Stormwater and pollution prevention plan.
Stormwater pollution prevention, okay?
yep, and he's going out bi-weekly and also after every half inch of rainstorm, he's gonna go inspect the site and he's gonna submit a report to the Conservation Commission. We've already submitted 2 bi-weekly reports. He just went out on Wednesday to do the site inspection for this last bi-weekly report that we will submit to the Concom as soon as it's completed.
Okay.
John,
Yeah.
do the blocks need maintenance? Do they fill up with silt and then have to be replaced?
No, so they're big blocks of flocculant and it dissolves in the water. Yeah, so when they dissolve and disappear, then they have to be replaced. So right now, we just put them in. They last pretty long. They probably last about 6 months
Mhm.
before you have to get
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
So they last pretty long. They're not cheap. They're $135 a block for each block. So, there's $3,000 in flock blocks out there.
Or at least it brings you in.
Yeah,
into June.
it's done, really, it was, I was at my wit's end, I didn't know what else I could do, like, I got probably before that gets the wet, 7, 8, 9, 10, I probably have like close to 22 or 24 rows of filter fabric.
It sounds like,
And it was still getting through it, so the flock blocks really was a game changer. It's settling out now, it's all in the bottom of the ponds. Besides that, when the silt starts to build up in the ponds, we're digging out the 3-inch stone and replacing the 3-inch stone. We've lined the bottom of the plunge pools with filter fabric also, so everything's lined, filter fabric everywhere, 3-inch stone. Is lining everywhere. We've done the road, the whole Hall Road with 3-inch stone now because we were running trucks up in that.
it was a
That
lot
last-
of.
that first big storm we got, there was mud everywhere. So we've lined the whole road coming down the hill with 3-inch stone, including the front section where we're chipping. I've been trying to stay on top of it all summer. I've been out there every storm, probably up to my knees in water, almost
Okay,
every
and
storm.
Any other
Uh,
questions about what's currently in place?
Is there
Or-
potential of the flock ending up in the lake, or does that kind
So
of
that's
settle
all
out?
Safe.
You guys have any, MSDS sheets you could provide?
I can get that from the provider.
Can I just ask one more question? Are you
It's
gonna?
it's hydrograss
Oh, okay.
in Oxford that makes them. They use them on quite a few projects.
So what's the concept that it captures the silt and flocculates it, so
Yeah.
it makes it heavier and it drops.
It drops into the,
So, but it just drops, unless you get cleaned up, it just, rather than going down, it's gonna drop somewhere in a wetland, right?
no, it's dropping it,
Dropping in the settling,
Yeah. into the
Plunge
plunge pools.
which getting cleaned out.
So we're getting clean water at the end now. So
So-
that's why we have so many plunge pools and so much filter fabric. We have the flock blocks at every step of the way. So it settles into those pools.
And the expectation is in your bi-weekly visits, you will inspect and see whether anything needs to get shoveled out. Okay,
So before this past weekend, we did pump down the detention basin to give it extra storage. So when I got out there on Monday morning, first thing, 7:30, I was out there. All of the plunge pools were full, but nothing was overflowing. And we really slowed down the flow of the water coming down. Before it was racing, when we would have a heavy storm, it would race through those plunge pools over the check dams. So this has been working. So now they're filling up, but they're going through the spillways where they're supposed to. We slowed everything down quite a bit.
Where did you pump the water from the retention pond to?
Excuse me?
Where did you pump you said the temporary
Yeah, so
detention basin?
We pumped over this hill into a silt pillow, one of the big 15 by 15 silt pillows. And then just let it drain down through the silt fence into the lines.
okay, any other questions about the remediation in place? All right, so we talked about what's in place now to make sure we have clear water coming out, and we've talked about monitoring. The third thing is going in and cleaning up the silt that got into the wetlands, and there's two parts. There's the wetlands area north of Route 16, and then the pond south of Route 16. Pond south of Route 16, we will defer until the Lake Nipmuc Task Force gets together with you later in the year to talk about dredging and what permitting is required for that. What are your plans for cleaning out the wetlands that you have on the here
I'll let
north
Donna
of
speak
16?
to that.
Yep.
So Scott did tell to Gary Domain about.
Yep, so we went out there and we inspected the wetland and we also submitted an impact analysis. And we believe that it's just a small dusting of silt on top of the leaves that's in the wetland right now. So currently we're not proposing any mitigation for that. We're gonna wait till the summer to take another look because right now the wetlands are really full. So if we go out there and try and do anything, it's just gonna spread the silt around. So we're gonna wait until the wetland is dry and we're in the drier season so we can go take another look at it.
Okay. Feedback from the commission on whether that's something,
Oh, I like that idea.
okay.
They go out there now, you're just gonna stir it up.
We had all our controls in place, but with the heavy rains.
Yep.
The silt was getting so stirred up. I was standing there and it was just, the silt was literally going right through three rows of silt fence and walls, and I was baffled.
I have a quick question. Are you gonna be abiding by the 2024 Mass DOT Stormwater Handbook for your inspections? They just came up with new regulations.
We will take a look into that and let's look back.
They're still draft. They're not scheduled to get it. The ones they
One we just
released back.
amended today. And
Yeah.
they're very costly.
Do you know when those are gonna be released?
The regulations are sort of in, they expect
Mhm.
people to abide by them.
They're gonna get 16 up to the snuff.
Probably when they start rebuilding.
Yeah, they have no control.
Yeah, they probably don't even know we're amended enough.
Okay.
No, they've been working out there for like the last 3 years. They're supposed to fix the drainage.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to say is that when we did the site visit a couple weeks ago, at that time, we agreed that we would not issue an enforcement order, stop work order. That I did that as chair. I wanted to make sure that the committee was not interested in overruling that and taking further action.
I'm fine with your decision.
Okay, any other? Okay,
It's fine.
okay, I just wanted to give the opportunity to
Be
slap me down. Yep.
I noticed that the minutes that hopefully we'll approve, because I was not able to attend the site walk, nor Leah. So then the question is, am I at my leisure, my ability to ask questions? I promise I'll be nice. But I noticed that Carl, you had said you had asked for in writing from the proponent as to why Leah and I should not, I can see I shouldn't have been at.
Well, when we're done talking about this specific 23 Cape Road, we can not have the Goddard people, and we'll talk with John Nenart directly about that issue. So I want to make sure that this is settled first.
My only other question is, this is an as-built and there's a stream
Yeah.
that you recreate.
Yeah.
And then whether it doesn't show up, because how would you have built this, that stream, and then you would have built two on either side, a detention pond?
So this stream now is gonna get diverted around. the parking lot. So the stream is gonna continue like this around the parking lot, which is in the approved plans. Down like this, right before the culvert that goes out. there.
But this doesn't show what the construction is. I want to see the underground, because
Yeah.
in essence, you're building a parking lot on both sides of a stream. So the stream goes under. So now my problem is, this is a fix and we got to do what's right. But you are using a wetland as a detention pond.
No,
You
no,
are
no.
using this is the stream. Where does the stream go? It doesn't go
So-
in the pipe.
So let me.
The stream
talk to
goes
that.
here, right? Where's it go
Let me
from this
let me
spot?
speak to that. The stream used to come down under the building through a pipe and
I
and empty
understand.
here.
Yeah.
So then when we got in trouble with DEP, they had us reroute it like this, and rather than, because we disturbed that stream without,
Because you diverted it
Violent.
without permission, so
we piped it.
you diverted it around the building.
No,
right?
we piped it under, so it was already piped under the building with a 12-inch concrete pipe.
Yeah.
That got filled up, and then the the water started flowing overland. We dug up that pipe and repiped it, and that's when we got in trouble. So DEP made us rebuild the stream, and they didn't want us to put it back into the pipe that went under the building, so they had us bring it around and empty it here. But then we came in front of the board, filed an NOI to do this work.
Yes.
This stream is now gonna get rebuilt in this stream bed around the parking lot and empty here. This is during construction, so we should start rebuilding that stream in about 2 weeks.
So how, this stream, how do you stop it from flowing while you're doing?
So
construction?
that's an intermittent stream that if it wasn't raining like it was, is dry normally. There was no channel there from before.
So did it rain this summer? Was there
Oh,
water in that
yes,
stream?
yes, we had the rain, we've had the rainiest summer.
So how do you do work in that stream?
Because we built a temporary basin here. So that,
In the stream, the what?
no. So the new stream is outside of that.
Did you
basin.
build it? That new stream?
The stream hasn't been constructed
No,
yet.
No, so
it's-
how,
it's
where
wet.
does
We
that
have to
intermittent
blast.
stream go?
It's going,
During construction?
Can I interrupt?
it's going into the basin.
So I think the reason I wanted the interim as-built plan is because I didn't understand where the stream was going anymore either. Because I understand from the plan, it's being reconstructed to go in the underground retention basin.
No, so so when we do the new plan, none of that water would go into the basin. Going into the temporary basin now to control the flow downstream into the well. Like last summer, there was no flow at all coming out of that upper well, all summer long. This summer, every other 3 or 4 days, we were getting a rainstorm and that thing had been flowing. So we had to control that water somehow. By putting it into a temporary basin. And I discussed this with Gary Dumaine at DEP. He said, yeah, you have to be dynamic. And when you're confronted with something, you have to try to control that. So we've done everything we can to control that. We did the basin. We started with a small check dam. We've increased that. We've done filter fabric. So every time we've had a problem, we've been out there and we've added more stuff to the system to get it to work so that there's no silt getting into the well.
Okay,
The other option would have been to pipe that around the whole site. And
So-
DEP already told me they didn't want it piped in the first place.
No,
Right, so my
It was
other
a-
question was,
Affecting the, sorry.
let Isabella,
The building is the pipe that used to run, that still runs under the building.
I'm not pointing.
Peter,
I'm pointing at the
Peter.
parking lot, sorry.
let me get into it.
Yeah, so
I want-
there's-
I-
This pipe.
Hold on a sec.
That's the pipe that runs.
Don?
Yep.
Isabella wanted to say something. I
Oh.
wanted to hear what her input was.
well, something else I had asked for is any changes to the resource area from the NOI. And so from the built pond, I kind of wanted to know if the stream bank had been removed more because the pond kind of went further than the plan.
I don't think that the stream bank is going to be any impacted further than what we already proposed. Just because the settling basin is currently there, we were proposing to temporarily impact that bank anyway, just to divert it around. So just having the settling basin there is not going to change the plans to divert it around. Because we were already going to impact the bank by putting the parking lot there. We got the approval through the notice of intent process to do so. And then we were recreating a larger section of linear bank in order to mitigate for that impacted bank section. So right now, currently, it's flowing into there, but we're going to mitigate for the impacted section of bank with the recreation of it going around the parking lot.
Okay, now, Peter, here's my question for you. They're going to be going out every 2 weeks and looking at the site. Isabella will go out as needed. What do you want them to do to make sure the intermittent stream is working okay? That they wouldn't
Intermittent
otherwise do?
stream. I'm not seeing an intermittent stream. I see where the intermittent stream was. I haven't been able to see.
Right,
I'm sure it's flowing now, I would think. But it's flowing into the detention pond, right?
Temporary.
The temporary detention pond. So that's my point. My major concern is this plan, which shows this steep slope that allow you to make your haul road. You have a arrow showing where it would go up to the top of the hill. You don't show the grading required unless it climbs up that hill. You guys have since denuded the top of the hill, taken all the trees off. And that's caused half of your problem. It's all the road, the water coming down can't go over the road, comes down, makes a new problem here which you've solved with a temporary settling basin. And the water flow is changed drastically. I admit we've had a lot of rain. But my question is, all summer long that you were working and enhancing, shouldn't you have told us that you were?
We weren't
had a problem?
monitoring over the summer. That was an oversight on our
But
part.
there should have been weekly
Yeah.
stormwater retention plans submitted. That's in the order of conditions. So that has, a year and a half has gone by without a single stormwater plan.
And now we're paying it, and now we're paying attention. So this is why I'm saying moving forward, we'll be able to have a close look at it and make sure this is working properly.
I
My,
was just like, so the pipe that comes under the building, Peter, is
Yeah.
still there. That's what the pipe that you see that's gonna connect over to the channel.
My eyes are getting weak. One is a 24-inch, one is an 18-inch, and I don't see how they connect, nor do I see how the existing
Where are you-
intermittent stream. I've looked on.
So this pipe that comes under the building, that go to the next
The
sheet.
total plan that shows,
That's great.
it's in the historic
right here.
documents. I don't think.
No.
Well, there you go. This.
So
what does
that,
that say? That's an existing 24-inch pipe.
correct. So now
I've
that,
also seen a plan. Well, sorry.
so this is gonna come straight across the basin to a drain manhole. And then that's gonna empty into this stream channel.
You say that in
This
the
co-
future.
Well,
So,
we have to build the
so,
site.
so where does this intermittent stream, you're telling me it doesn't go in the channel that you created, DP made you build?
Currently it
No,
does.
currently it
Currently,
does, but
water
it's gonna
there
go around
goes
here
in the
because
basement stream.
And then,
the
but
site's
how does
solid
it
ledge.
get into this pipe and go through?
It doesn't go into this pipe.
Okay, so where does it go when it goes here?
It's gonna follow a new stream bed
You're
around
talking
like
in the
this.
future tense. I'm talking what it did last month.
During construction, it's flowing into a temporary basin here.
Okay.
They cut a channel in right here around the building.
Yeah.
Isabel, I'm sorry.
Required to build
But
that.
John,
That's,
one thing that I did.
Yeah, we are
notice-
building it, Peter, but it's solid ledge. We have to chip
I'm
away at
saying
the ledge
that
before
is
we can
what you
build
were
it.
required to build 2 years ago,
Right, and now we filed a notice to change that and bring it around here.
right?
But we're in the middle
my
of construction
question
to
is,
build.
where's the settling basin during construction?
It's right there.
In the existing wetland, that's not allowed.
It's not in a
No,
well.
it was allowed because you sent us an order of conditions. You issued an order of conditions to allow us to temporarily impact the bank of that stream. So we did temporarily impact it. It's not currently a parking lot yet. We're going to mitigate with the
That
stream.
is gonna be a parking lot. We didn't. we
With a
didn't
stream
change
running through the middle of it.
No, it's going around the edge of it.
John, I have a question.
Yeah.
Since you're right here. When Isabella and I were here,
Yeah,
this is going around and I get that. There was a channel.
cut off
coming,
right here.
But the water was coming down the hill and going right to the corner. This
Yeah, so
corner
it
right here.
leaches, so because.
So it's gonna go into this pipe right here.
Right.
Is it gonna go into that settling basin that you?
No.
put there now?
Oh, it is going in there now. But once this is built, that pipe gets extended to the new stream channel over here.
Okay, so all the water that's gonna come out of this hill and come into this corner.
We'll get back
is
into
gonna
the
go
stream.
there.
Yeah,
It's
and,
gonna
and
be
what,
pumped all the way
what doesn't leach through, because there's ledge under there, so it leaches into the ground and follows the ledge down behind the building. That's why we had to leave the pipe there. So, but when it's flowing good, it just flows and most of the water will go around like this. So right now in a rainstorm, most of the water comes here. Some leaches down from under the ground behind the building. Yeah.
okay, I will,
So it's the only thing else we could do is we could put a liner in the hole. That's not permitted.
It's trying to do everything
Yeah.
we can to make it.
I
Okay.
mean, I don't see any other way how to build a site. If you, like, we're in about 2 weeks, we're gonna stop rebuilding that stream.
Right. okay. I'm going to end the information sharing session and ask a question.
Sure.
When do you expect to take the temporary detention basin that is in the as-built and turn it into a parking lot? How far out,
So there's an underground basin under the parking lot.
right?
We're starting construction on the underground basin next week.
Okay,
And then we're starting construction on the stream channel in 2 weeks. So we
okay,
gotta get all the crushed stone in for the underground basin first. And then
Okay.
we'll start rebuilding that side of that slope and that channel coming down.
Okay.
They are gonna line that with, they're gonna do a liner in there rather than clay this time, so that the water doesn't leach
Okay.
down to the ledge.
Okay, as you're going through that work, we'd ask that you have our conservation agent out so you can work with her and explain as you're going on. And then that way she would be able to identify immediately rather than waiting 6 months if there are any possible issues or any concerns that we might have.
Only question I have is your detention pond is half of the settling basins you gotta build, so you've got to do it in stages. You gotta do this, and you're not gonna have as big a detention pond because you're building, so I don't know.
Yes, we will, because that'll be filled with the crushed stone, and crushed stone still has 40. So we will still have detention.
You'll have 40%. You'll have less than half the capacity.
So Peter,
We're building the new stream channel at the same time that we're doing.
here's the way I want Peter for you to work on this. They're going to be giving us reports. We'll talk about whether you're allowed to do a site visit next. Even without you being able to make site visits, you would be able to discuss with Isabella any concerns, and then the two of you would be able to work with the engineers so that your concerns would get addressed as they're doing stuff rather than waiting.
My concern is more larger scale than fixing the problem, that there's been more drainage than I think had been planned for. And I'm thinking because
Well,
more.
yeah, that's
work
why we got
stuff.
24 flock box now.
Right, so rather than, I understand the need to, the emergency fix, my concern is that also going to impact, I don't know, future
So,
stuff?
so most of the top, I know you talked about the top of the hill. Most of the top of the hill goes to the right, to the upper wetland. It flows to the upper wetland. There's no erosion up there. There's no silt in the upper wetland. Isabella walked it. I'll walk it. DEP walked it. There's no silt in the upper basin getting any. We do have a full, if you look at that plan, that big blob of top is a full row of 4 feet of 5 feet of high and 10 feet wide of wood chips to help with any erosion that was coming down the hill. And then behind that, on the next steep slope, is another row of silt right over here.
Yeah, I'm just
And
look at the top of the hill.
wattles, and there's no silt this is the area that was replanted with seed. There's no silt getting into any of this. There's no silt getting into this upper wetland. There's no silt getting into this stream channel. The silt starts once the water comes in here and mixes with the soil from these beds.
So on the other sheet, the top of the hill,
Yeah.
you put silt fence all the way around. I
I
take
did
it.
it just to define, so we're outside of the 100-foot buffer, and most of that is uphill of the site, but I did that to define the area that had already been cleared outside of the 100-foot buffer, because this is the area that we're using for to crush the stone and pile it.
So basically, everything within the silt fence got cut, right?
That was cut.
Peter, I'm gonna call this. It's not relevant.
Was
to
this blasted?
agen-
Is this
it's
still
not
elevation there?
relevant to this agenda item.
My concern is this, you're doing work 100 feet from the buffer, 102. And so my concern, yeah,
No.
okay,
Okay,
thank you, sorry.
all right. So I believe that concludes our conversation with the engineers. John, if you could stay, I want to discuss the access issue with you. Could you state what the current position is of Kevin Meehan? on-
Sorry.
Yeah, you're all-
Thank you.
thanks
Sorry.
very much.
Get to the
Right.
Conservation Commission about it. I'm not really involved in it
Right.
that much, but I did try to get the draft for this meeting. He needs a few more days to complete
Okay.
it. Should have it sometime next week.
Okay, here is the position that Isabella looked at the language that Mendon has in the bylaw, the language that Mendon has in our order of conditions. It looks like pursuant to an order of conditions on a site, Conservation Commission members are entitled to access the site regardless of what the property owner is interested in. If that is the case, then investigating 4547 Uxbridge, that's under an OOC. We would be, Peter and Leah would be allowed to go on there regardless of the wishes.
And I've said I don't have a problem with that.
Well,
but-
I'm just saying, this is, we will review the letter that the lawyer presents to us. If necessary, we'll ask for a referral for a review with town council. Now, in terms of other activities that come before us, for example, if we needed to do an RDA for 134 North, that is not under an OOC, and then he would be entitled to not allow certain people on it. So as I said, we will wait until we get a letter from the lawyer. The other question about is in addition to access to a site, whether he's going to ask the lawyer letter and Kevin Meehan request that Conservation Commission members not vote on certain issues related to his properties. And so the lawyer should be addressing that as well.
All right, I'll make sure that's all addressed.
And the goal is that moving forward, if we're doing a site visit to this place, we would know whether commissioners are entitled to go or not. Whether we go to this kind of site visit, whether Kevin Meehan is entitled to require that commissioners not attend.
Understood.
When we have votes on various matters, if the lawyer makes a representation that certain commissioners should not be voting.
And I would rather have it cleared up too.
Yes.
At a time, so that we don't have. it.
Okay. So Leah, Peter, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't pick Kevin out of a lineup, just put him in front of me, and it's pretty intimidating, so people are looking at my information, so just so you know. I'm not,
Okay,
that's not cool.
not me. So.
All right.
Yes, but you talked to him.
I.
You're here in- you're here on this behalf. It's your job to report that information to.
Okay. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to talking with you in the future.
Good job. You guys. Have a good night.
All right, the next one we'll go to 23 Cape Road, review conditions from various site walks, including the one that we took this morning. I see there are people in the audience who are interested as well. So introduce yourself.
Abraham George.
And I'll give my summary of what we observed this morning. We went out and did a site walk for the solar farm, which is, I believe, 29 Cape Road, no, 39 Cape Road. And then we went uphill and did a site walk of 23 Cape Road. We went on the site walk with the electrical engineer in charge of the solar project. Our observations were that, and then there are some photos that Isabella can show. There is excessive stormwater running off from 39 Cape Road. However, it is not carrying fines. It is just stormwater overwhelming the barrier. The flow from the western edge, they have a nice swale and they have lots of gravel. There is there are 3 drains coming out and 2 of them had a whole lot of water rushing through. The water coming out of the side of the hill is clear. It is going into the siltation barrier and knocking it down. But even after it's channeling on through, the water coming from the solar farm is clear.
So is that still that picture? We're seeing the drainage from the solar. Yeah.
This is from the swale, so this is the exit of under the culvert
That's the
leaving the
last.
swale.
Yeah.
So you can see the channeling occurring with the silt fence down, but there isn't sediment. It's just high volumes of water.
What we have asked the engineer we met with this morning is to get a hold of their stormwater management people, and they do something to slow the velocity of water coming out of their drains and going down. Maybe they need to have smaller grade riprap. Maybe they have some other way of slowing the outfall.
The key is you have larger.
Okay, well, like I said, I'm
So is that your concern that is there, bingo.
they're
That's going to
channeling.
cause erosion. That's a gully, right?
Yeah.
Making up.
Yeah, so that there would be, not that there's silt coming into the wetlands, but the wetlands would have stormwater running into it so much that it's causing channeling and other
So where's that?
habitat.
This is like channeling leading up, and then this is further back in the photo. So this is the actual wetland, and this is sediment that I believe coming from upstream historic sediment that's sitting there. From the site walk today, it doesn't look like there's active sediment coming off of the solar field.
Yes. However,
Pines have already gone, but the meads, they could get resuspended the next.
we
could also.
did not see any historical evidence of siltation or fines coming out of the solar farm drainage system.
Okay,
There's no dirty leaves. There's no,
yeah, you can't hide that stuff too well.
you can see quite differently. Upstream where the water's coming out of the solar farm, it's clear. Further down towards the creek, where the silt flowed in from upstream, you can see the grayish patches. So the expectation is that within a few weeks, we would hear from the solar farm. Isabella will find out who the contact is, and we will see what their stormwater, what they think they can do to update the stormwater. We also will be saying the siltation fence either can get removed or it needs to be fixed as well. They have the sock has plastic netting. The plastic should be removed so that the turtles don't get hung up on it. And that would be for the entire border of work. So we'll talk with them about cleaning that up as well.
Mr. Chair, is it possible looking upstream? Because what you want to do is you want to spread it out like a level spreader, right? You don't want it to focus. And I'm not sure if maybe the hay bales are causing it to focus, right? Or is whether some
Do you have a
strategic-
picture of the
strategic
drain with
place
water
rock
coming out of
would
it? One of the three
break
drains?
up the flow?
That's what you want. You want to break up the flow, so you put a riprap dam, but yeah, I would use.
Yep, that one,
6-inch
right there.
lines.
Yeah, what you're seeing here, there are three drains like this coming out. And
Yeah.
this one doesn't have much water. One of them had water coming out, and there's evidence that over the weekend and in December, there was a tremendous amount of water flowing.
That's a
in.
good size
So the
pipe.
goal is to have them come back with the plan to slow this stormwater down, trap it a little so that it doesn't cause gullying.
More rocks filling, that would slow it
Carl,
down.
does that look
Yeah.
like that's, they tried to put riprap there and some of it just washed away?
Yeah, if they freshened that up, brought it up to that lip level and
I think,
Couldn't hurt.
if they extended that out and brought it so that
The,
it's flatter.
the
They'll come
the
with-
stormwater review would then come and tell us that, yeah, the storm washed it down and they're going to put it back up again.
or it's settled over time. I don't know.
Whatever their recommendation is for fixing it.
Is there a time limit on that or?
Well, we'll,
I think we said we want by the start of February to
Yeah.
have contact with a storm engineer. Yeah.
yeah, we should get Isabella should get the name of the engineer and then we would talk with them on their schedule and when they'd come in with something. So that is the stormwater going out of the west edge of the parcel, and we'll talk about stormwater coming out of the north edge of the Cape Road parcel in a little bit. So the other thing we did after going to the solar farm is we went and met with Mike Dean and Abe and did a review of 23 Cape Road. This is also in very good shape. The retention pond that was put in a couple over the summer or last April is still doing its job. There is no,
Is this what we're looking at now or?
Yep.
There-
This is the start of.
yeah,
Started.
Yeah.
there is no, even despite the December storms and the rain and the snow this past week,
Right.
there are no fines and silt flowing out of Abe's parcel down into the wetlands. It's clear water that's flowing down. All of the fines in the wetlands are from earlier this summer or earlier last year
Or 2 years ago.
or whenever it was. So
This is the retention pond on
Yeah,
the solar farm.
that's looking good, right?
yes, that's
It's been
working great.
tested well. Okay.
Working, but.
Yes. Now,
Or you.
well, the other thing is that what Mike will be looking into is stormwater flowing onto Abe's property from the solar farm coming out the side of the north side of the hill.
Or the soccer field.
And the soccer field. There was a report that some of the stormwater coming from the soccer field had little green pieces of turf.
Or that little black stuff, yes.
Yeah.
Pellets.
Right. So what we are now in a position to do, and Abe is interested in, we're going to get a report from Mike Dean with his estimate of how much stormwater is coming on Abe's property from the neighbors. At that point, I want to have a conversation with the planning board saying, I only get to talk to Abe. the planning board gets to go and talk to the soccer field. And what do we do to have the soccer field update their stormwater management plan?
Or chip in, it's gotta be worked at,
But I want to know, it's like, we discussed it after you left with Mike Dean, the engineer, the amount of water and how it's managed to see how much water I have to deal coming from the neighbor or they
Yes.
can manage better. Because what we did, honestly, I tell you, I have video here. It's like in Niagara Falls, the water rushing, it's a huge and. from
Coming
that
off side,
detention
yeah.
pond,
Now,
on my side.
Yeah.
And on the other side, from the farm, the water is coming like really hard,
Jesus.
but
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
and I heard the guy talking before me, John, about the silt fence, 1, 2, 3. I can tell you guys, no more silt fence is gonna work. You get an update for something better. Because I have to, they don't really work for a short period of time. The amount of rain that we've been getting, it's time to, I mean, there is a lot of smart people and technology today available to have people like me. I have almost 30 acres. You know, you put 5 acres of grass, what is it gonna do? You put detention pond, but there is water coming from other sides. So the same thing with the soccer field and the others. So the management, I think it require much better solution
yes,
than we've been dealing with because it's making your job harder and it's prolonging the process and it's not protecting the wetland as it should.
And at a large enough scale, it's impacting neighbors.
Yes.
It's-
The advantage here is we are now going to get a contact at this. It took 3 weeks to find out the right person to talk to about the solar farm. We're now going to have in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, find out who their stormwater management person is. Once they finish talking about the western part of the border, then we'll be able to talk to them with working with Abe and Mike Dean saying, okay, you've got stormwater coming out the side of your hill onto Abe's property and begin a discussion between those two engineers. Likewise, I'm expecting that we'll now have Isabella try and work and find a similar contact for the soccer field owners and start having a conversation with them.
And what I'm planning to do, I already talked to somebody, they're gonna come and put more hay bale to make it higher. And some areas where the fence is lowered or the water pushed it, it's either to replace that section or put another one behind it. And this is only temporary
Yeah,
because
it's
if
a
it rained
Band-Aid.
5 inches, it's probably the water would run it off. But to lower the risk of you know, having this problem again. And you know, whatever the board decide, and we later on see fit for the wetland or for the
Well, that's relatively cheap money. Are you going ahead and then selling it to the,
yes.
because
But
someone's
it's,
gonna have to do a longer term fix.
Well,
whether
that's-
that's
What we want to do instead of bothering the neighbor or doing this, it's a grand fix. But you know, these project, they took almost year and a half to go through the town. Maybe financing, it will take another year. Hopefully in May, they should be okay or late April.
When I,
But with today economy and stuff, you never know. But
when
I want to do something immediately beside what the other people want
yeah,
to do.
when I
They
spoke,
come around, probably you guys listen to a grand solution and everybody will be happy.
when I spoke with Mike Dean, he has 3 actions he's working on. The first one is investigate the stormwater flowing onto the site from adjacent parcels. The second one is what can he do to improve stormwater management? Not in terms, there's no fines issue, but there's a lot of water flowing down. And if he has any recommendations for that. The third thing he's going to be working on, which will be of interest to the neighbors, is he's going to be beginning the preparation of a plan to go into the wetlands that has been contaminated with a whole lot of silts and fines and come up with a plan to remediate, restore whatever the current thing is.
Little, you know, disturbance to the wetland.
Yeah, you might,
And-
and there are other things than doing besides digging it out or how.
And with the understanding that since we've been waiting Last summer, the expectation was that the sale would be closed and we'd be working with Blue Water and Blue Water's very large pockets to remediate that property. Since that hasn't gone forward, now it is time for Abe and Mike Dean to come up with the plan until such time as he sells the parcel to someone else. So the expectation is that in a couple of weeks, we will have a presentation from Mike Dean on how to clean up the existing parcel. At that point, we'd make sure to reach out to the neighbors and other people who've expressed interest in the creek in the past and say that we would be having that presentation.
AJ and Christine on Teams have a question if you want to unmute.
Yep, go ahead.
Hi there, this is AJ and Christine at 14 Talbot Farm. So in listening to your conversation, it's clear about everything on 39 Cape. And it looks like you have an open action here because you feel that excessive stormwater is possibly running off the soccer field on a 23 Cape. And you said, if I heard correctly, that the retention pond is clear and you didn't find any evidence of silt. However, we continually have taken photos and sent them to you, which clearly show silt that is actually on 23 Cape. When we're standing on our property, but zooming in, you can see the silt during the rain events. And it's happened at a couple spots now. And more recently, it's happened further up our property towards Talbot Farm, 12 Talbot. And December 10th and December 18th. And then yesterday I have photos from January 10th again, where the silt isn't just, showing up in the stream. I mean, you can see it on 23 Cape in that portion of the wetlands.
Right.
Going down onto ours and downstream. So I'm just trying to I
Okay.
need to understand what.
Okay, here's the observation that we did on today's site walk and also the one that we took back in December. There is no new silt that we are observing coming from the uplands part of 23 Cape Road. The water that's flowing out of his retention pond, the water that's flowing on the berm in the northern part of the western edge of the parcel, that's coming down clear. What we did observe is there's an immense amount of silt from 6 months, 2 years ago already in the wetlands. And we also observed silt that is flowing even further upstream from 23 Cape Road. One of the things that Isabella will now be working on that we've got the immediate abutters, we're going to be reaching out to the upstream abutters on the creek and saying, can we conduct a site walk? You may have a siltation issue where your properties are having silt flow into the wetlands. There's also what you may be observing is silt that's in the wetlands part from 2 years ago, 6 months ago, is now when there's a lot of rain, it's getting flushed out and going downstream again. And that would be getting addressed with Mike Dean coming back and saying what work would be getting done perhaps as early as the summer to start cleaning things up or capping it or whatever the current restoration rehabilitation process is for the silt that's currently in there.
When that retention pond was put in place, for a few rainfalls after, we did start to see less and less silt in the area. There was a small break in that, and we check it on a regular basis. And it has started up again in large quantities, which is alarming to me because I feel that means it is not old sediment and that it is new sediment coming down. So I do understand you didn't see anything, but I'm very confused. I mean, you have seen the photos we sent you.
Yes.
And
I think the best way to solve this is with Abe's permission, people go out with wet gear and boots during an active rain event. And we start at the retention pond on Abe's property and start working our way downhill and say, okay, where is the silt being introduced? We don't see it coming from Abe's property, the retention pond part of it in the uplands part. Is the silt that you're observing and we would be observing in the stream coming from upstream from Abe's property, or is it stirring up the silt that's already in the wetlands?
So when you say, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So so by uplands, I mean, on 23 Cape Road, there is a part where everything to the east of the siltation barrier and where the remediation was done, and they took and they put in a lot of grass and other things to track, keep the banks from eroding on down. Once you get on the western side of the siltation barrier, that's where you're seeing silt from 6 months to years ago. And the goal of the retention pond and our current focus working with Mike Dean is to say, make sure that nothing else gets on the western edge of the silt barrier, that no new contamination comes in from Abe's property. We're not seeing any new silt. So the goal is, if there is new silt coming in, is it coming from upstream? And that's what we would want to be checking in future rainstorms.
Or
And
our
when you-
theory, it's the resuspension, because that picture that's
Yeah.
on the screen there, if you have a good 3-inch storm going through that,
During the
that's
storm,
gonna generate,
that is not,
visible.
not just like a simple line where the brook, it's all spread out and it's rushing.
Yes, and
So it can move all the,
move stuff, betcha.
so
I mean, the place was, they used to take sand from it, maybe 2.5 years ago,
It's- Yep.
6 months ago, and maybe 10 years ago. And when they built these houses where the neighbor are, okay, Abraham built them, Rosenfeld. Probably silts went down because I see some ravine coming from these houses.
The good news is it's not clay soils.
Yeah,
That
it's
would
not
be
right, but,
messy.
you know.
So Abe, are you comfortable with arranging, putting on raincoats and umbrellas at a future rainstorm and going out and observing?
Anytime.
I don't want to solicit people walking around in the rain when trees are coming down and
Well,
No, the wind was not a good thing, but the rain's okay.
If you
And
really walk during the rain, okay, like, or right when it stopped, you have really good idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Because the whole bottom where the ground level, it's all covered with water.
Mhm.
So you don't know if it's coming from here,
Yeah.
it's all covered, like you can't even walk, you
Right.
need big boots.
So we have your permission, the next rainstorm might be this
Yeah.
weekend, maybe
And-
Sunday.
Saturday.
and
And or the commission would have your permission to go out and.
And what we can
Alright.
definitely do is observe the area uplands of the siltation fence, and we can look and say, yeah, there's stormwater coming down. Are there fines and silt in it? If the answer is yes, then we go back to Mike Dean and say, here's a picture, make sure that doesn't happen. If the answer is no, then we start working our way north through the parcels along the creek, saying, okay, are you generating fines into the brook, into the creek now, into the stream?
I'd also like to give members in the
Definitely,
audience
it's a
from,
Problem, and they need to be
Okay.
corrected in the wetland.
Okay, so are there people in the audience who have input? Want to come up to the microphone and identify yourself?
Gary Bullock, 9 Edward Road. And, I brought up this issue 2 years ago. As I abut the solar field.
You have the stone wall, right?
Yes,
The
there's
stone wall that it's very soft on
that
the other
has the-
side.
horseshoe pits filled. Remember that? But I had videos and, stuff like that. So I'm just here to
Okay,
listen to see if
okay.
anything's gonna be done or
Well,
what.
we're going to make progress. We're going to someone from the solar farms is now going to be working with our agent on stormwater management. So in addition to them talking about heavy runoff into the west and runoff to the north edge, we can also ask them to look at the stormwater on the south, on the south edge that's adjacent to your property.
We'll have 2 professionals on the job, so if you have any questions, please.
I wanted to say this, before they raped the trees there,
Mhm.
took them all down. We had no water coming down, but it comes like a stream. And it's so wet on the other side of the wall that I don't know when the tree came down, but an oak tree, not a pine, but an oak that has deep roots fell over onto our property. They did take care of they cut it at the wall, but they took care of the tree, but it's because the ground over there is so wet. And now it's produce water in that area.
Mhm.
It was not there before.
Right,
And we've lived there.
It's developed into a wetland.
yes, and
In
this,
Summertime, you see
well,
mosquitoes.
it's dangerous to say that before this committee. The issue is, again, since the area you're talking about is not inside a protected buffer zone, the Concom really can't say much about it. That's where we're going to reach out to the planning board and say, does the planning board need to get involved in the stormwater management what would it call it? Stormwater management pollution? and-
EPP.
Stormwater.
So we would see if they need to update their SWIP and file with the planning board, not with us. And at that point, you'd be able to work with the planning board on stormwater on flowing onto that area.
The other thing is that when they went to put in the soccer field, and they said they were not going to have a paved parking
Yes,
lot.
I know.
And now after they got approval and they were in there a while, I don't know how long they were in there, and then they paved it.
Yes.
Well, the water is not going.
And one of the questions that we will ask with the planning board and when we start working on stormwater in the larger areas, should the soccer field have refiled a new plan when they paved over the stuff? And we'll see how, Mike, you were talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of a stormwater management plan is people cannot take their water, funnel it onto someone else's land, and then expect that the next guy down the line be held 100% accountable for it.
Right, but it's awkward now that all the developments happened,
Right.
to have three different landowners sharing it when you're at the end, but you know, each one needs to be responsible for infiltrating their own as much as possible.
Way the land is set, my land is lower as you go, get lower and lower,
Yeah.
and they're higher. And there is a hill up there, so obviously
The water
water
goes.
gravity, I'm gonna follow it. So it comes on my land. There is no drainage in the
That's
parking.
That was the whole idea of the stormwater management act. To
Yeah.
stop the guy that has the high property going like that, and the poor guy on the bottom
Then the victim, that's-
gets the deluge.
I'm not poor guy.
My yard is ending up in Diane's yard.
She's
Okay,
got more
thank
water
you.
than us.
Okay, do we have someone online? Okay, did you want to say something as well? Okay, come on up.
Hi, I'm Diane Powell. I live at 13 Edward Road. I'm next door to them. So what water comes down behind their yard comes through the stone walls into my backyard, which is flooded. I'm worrying about my septic system. I worry, I go out there the other day. I took pictures. I have ponds back there. It's also in the buffer area between the road that you walked on today and my property. That's filled with water. My concern is that, again, the soccer field was paved. They have all those soccer fields up there. They plow all that snow when it snows up. This past winter, it wasn't bad, but they plow it all off out to the side of it. And then when it melts, it all comes downhill. I would appreciate if he was asked that when you plow those areas, that you load it into trucks and get it out of there.
The stormwater plan for the soccer field, shouldn't that say where they dump snow? Okay, so that's definitely something to follow up with on the planning board. You talk about, you're concerned about impact to your septic system, that means you get to drag the Board of Health in. If you can have someone from the Board of Health agree that your septic system is about to get adversely impacted, they have ability to go and do something as well. As again, we have jurisdiction in a buffer zone close to a wetlands. Board of Health, they can do enforcement orders based on impact to people's septic systems.
And Mr. Chair, I would say that the other issue might be the snow. When they plow that, they plow it into the riprap, which is the drainage swale. Well, some of that stuff ends up in that, which is probably not a good thing. So snow management is an issue there.
Snow management is an issue, again. Not only the quality of water, but the quantity of water. You know,
Because I know when, this past winter, it wasn't bad, but they did have a big, huge amount of snow. And then when it melts come spring, it just comes on down.
Okay, people online, did AJ
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
Christine, do you have another comment?
I just had a quick follow-up question for you, just for my notes. So, you mentioned the siltation fence. Is this, is that fence, does it only reside on, the area between Witten Road and, the south end of 23 Cape? Or is it, because you keep mentioning upstream, and I'm not unclear. To me, I'm not sure if you're talking about, further north of Witten Road, or if you're talking about going all the way east up.
Uphill,
23 Cape.
basically.
Uphill, okay.
uphill.
Thank you.
There are two different things that I'll talk about.
Let's go to Teams.
Isabella's put up the Mass GIS photo.
Go to.
Unfortunately, you can't see me waving my hands in front of the screen, so I won't do that. There is a silt fence going roughly north-south at the western edge of 23 Cape Road.
Okay.
That's the property line. That is a boundary that Abe and Mike Dean will be using to say, if they're going to do any work on the other side of the silt fence, they need to get Concom authorization because it's within a protected buffer zone. Our observation in the 2 sidewalks we've done in the last month is there is no new silt crossing that boundary going from uphill to the east side, downhill into the west side. Instead, what we're seeing is we walked north. Can you move the thing down? Yeah. We went and we saw, we went up to that intersection right at the northern edge, and we're seeing silt flowing downstream. So what we're now going to be doing, Isabella will see about contacting the people who own 117, 119, 120, went all the way up to Hartford Avenue and saying, can we go and investigate whether.
And is it the airport that comes around and then takes a
Yeah,
dog
behind
leg
the
down
airport.
to the stream?
Yeah.
That would be my first, most likely
The stream
candidate.
come behind the air, like, on the
It's got to cross over.
west side of the airport.
Yeah, so the question is, now that the holidays are over, we're going to try and reach out to those property owners and say, we have a photograph of water coming downstream from the north with silts in it. We want to find out where it's coming from because it's impacting the wetland, especially during heavy rain events. So that is the next, one of the many things I'm putting on Isabella's plate. She was successful in getting a hold of someone at the solar farm. She's going to try and get somebody to talk to at the soccer field. And then we're going to start trying to reach out to people in the northern part. If you happen to know who they are, give Isabella an email or give her a call and let her know who to try reaching out to.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl, one last thing from my side. It's AJ, again, 14 Talbot. Listening to how the water topology has changed. At what point does the Concom or the planning board determine that the shape of the wetlands has been affected by all these developments?
That's exactly what I'm hoping to bring up as part of the overall storm management site for all 3 of the parcels.
Well, it's not even stormwater. It's the planning board reviews pre-development runoff has to match. You can't have more runoff after development than pre-development. So you've
Right.
got to build a settling basin or a detention pond. And some engineers got to do all the calculations. And then they have to assume, well, how much water is coming off originally. So it can be complex the larger you get. And that's what we're getting into. These are large sites with a fair amount of imperviousness that is, I don't know.
Yeah, it's clear that the hydrology, and yes, I've learned that term here, has changed of the area. And, I'm listening to our fellow residents at Edwards dealing with this, our colleagues at Talbot. And of course, Abe is also affected. So at some point, there's got to be some review of the hydrology, what's changed. And because it sounds like the residents in Edwards now have a wetlands right in their backyard, which wasn't the case before. And that's really been our concern too, as the silt starts to enter in, how much is it going to affect the wetlands that are on our property as well? So.
Okay, any other discussion of 23 Cape Road, 39 Cape Road? Okay, thanks for coming and we'll be getting reports from Mike Dean and deciding when we are next on the agenda.
Okay. And Abe, you're okay if it rains Saturday, if anybody goes there?
Abe,
You're okay a Saturday if it's raining, if we.
Why would I care? You're welcome to go.
Well, there you go.
No,
That's the
no,
attitude.
that's
Thank you.
fine.
Okay,
As a
If you want, I go too. I like.
it's good exercise.
As a committee, I would advise against anybody on this committee inviting the general public.
You're right there.
Oh,
We got permission because we are the
Mhm.
Concom.
Someone else breaks
It's a
their
big
leg. that's gonna be an
liability if
issue.
something happens, if somebody stumbles out there and
Lots of
And
pine trees.
what you brought to everybody's attention. Somebody stumbles and gets hurt, it's a big liability. And if if
We don't
you're
want
the
to be.
guy that invited them out there, you become part of that liability.
So my question now is, if somebody decides it's a good time to go, will
thank Abe.
you reach out to me? Cause.
I can let people know, but I'm working at the restaurant on Saturday, so I'm not available.
we
Um,
can discuss that on the chat, on the text thing, if people think that they want to go out and coordinate that way. That's not deliberation, so we can use the text messaging for that. That's for scheduling. All right, is there, that's what people here in the building were for. Are there people on the Teams call who are here for particular agenda items?
Bill's on.
I see Charles Dryberg. Can you get off mute and say what you're here to talk about?
He's here
No,
for
you
5
can-
Morrison.
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, this is Phil. I was just sitting in on request from Diane and the folks on the wetland problem off of the roads. I was curious.
Okay, which site are you talking about?
Oh, this is where Diane lives off of Edwards Road.
That last one.
Okay, that's what we were just talking about.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, I'm leaving now,
Okay, thank you very much. So,
but I was curious about it too. It's
Yep.
interesting to watch your committee.
thank you. Okay, and so I believe Charles Drangberg, I corresponded with you earlier today. Isabel, can you bring up that email?
Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, we got a couple more in from him throughout the meeting as well with more pictures.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I-
can see it. I didn't.
Okay, so Charles, could you introduce yourself and say what your property is and what your complaint is?
Hi, everyone. I'm Charles Drenberg. I live at 12 Applewood Lane. We're a new development right off of Providence. There's two parts to my problem here. One, the property behind us, and I don't know if it's 5 Morrison or 3 Morrison, it's hard to tell. It's where the school buses are parked. So that property is right behind our house. We have a stone wall and a fence between us. And recently, I guess there were trees here before we moved. We just moved to town 2 years ago when our house was built. And I believe there were a bunch of trees between our house and their property before, but apparently they were taken down while our house was being built. And recently, in the last 2 weeks, they started digging. If you look at the back of the property, between the buses and that cul-de-sac, they started digging with a large excavator right up against the wall on that property. I'm not sure what they're doing. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know who to contact over there. So I reached out to you guys and the planning commission to kind of find out what's going on. There's a drone photo there that you just pulled up, and then there's some videos of them digging over the last couple of days that I added in there too, just to give some context to what's going on. The concern is, we have a lot of water that flows through the back of our property. It's something we've brought up with the developer. It comes down the hillside, it goes across our neighbor's backyard, and then goes through our backyard. The developer hasn't done really anything to mitigate this. We think that there should be some kind of drainage or something, because our whole backyard floods every time it rains. And then that water flows across the stone wall. That's my backyard right there. The water flows across our backyard. It goes through the wall. It goes into that property behind us where they're digging. And, it's just really concerning. Like, the water on our property is a huge problem. But it's now seems worse if they're going to be digging right behind our wall. And I can imagine it's just going to get worse and worse over the next year.
Could you go to the property commit or Google map or whatever?
Yeah, let's see if there's.
Like, do you
wetlands.
know
I
whether or
don't think
not
there are.
that the site that they're proposing 3 steel buildings putting on?
I remember a problem with that, a butter to that site, maybe like 5 years ago, there was problems with the wall when the lot got sold. So is that off Morrissey? Because the wetlands are right there, so it's gotta come, the drive.
If
So
I'm
I-
not mistaken,
yeah.
they're planning on putting buildings in there.
Oh, yeah, the warehouse.
Okay, so if property is 5 Morrison, which is what I was looking at this morning, the wetland in the buffer zone is in this area down here. So 5 Morrison, any work being done up here adjacent to 12
No,
is
I don't
outside
think,
the buffer. If you're having trouble with 3 Morrison, that I didn't look up online. 3 Morrison, there's definitely going to be buffer zone work. So it looks like if they are doing work in here,
Staples.
we'd want to say,
5 may be, Akudi.
is there work being done? In addition, if they're doing commercial work, they may need to file a building permit or something with the planning board saying what they're doing.
yeah,
Is 7 the
it
fire
looks
station?
like it's 3 Morrison, 5 Morrison, nothing, but 3 Morrison is where they.
Sorry,
digging.
8 is the fire station.
Are they building buildings?
Yeah, they're supposed to put
Yeah.
3
Okay,
big
so,
buildings.
so we want to update your complaint to say it's about 3 Morrison Drive, not 5.
Yep.
All right. It does look like there is a buffer zone that they may be working in, so we can definitely have Isabella reach out and contact them. Do you know people who has the Concom been working with them in the past?
What's the name of the owner of the?
It says T-Stone LLC.
T something LLC?
T-Stone.
Keystone, that doesn't, that's the name of a company. So you don't have any information on, Tim, are you still on? You know anything about 3 Morrison?
See Tim.
No, I guess he dropped off.
He's not there.
Okay, so we're discussing this under agenda item 15, items not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of the meeting because we got the email this morning. So the expectation is that Isabella will reach out to the property owner and find out what they're doing. If they are doing work within a buffer zone, then we'll ask them to come in and explain what they're doing and whether they need to do any of the Mass DEP paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Isabella we have your email. She can reach out to you
12.
As she's setting things up. If we do have someone coming into our meeting in 2 weeks, we'd let you know so you could attend in person or remotely.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so if that's done, we can now start working our way through the rest of the agenda.
Awesome.
Well, those are 3 hard issues. I don't know. These are
Yes.
Yeah.
not easy ones.
All right, so we'll go back to agenda item number 2, review correspondence. Take it away, Isabella.
We have the quote from Lake Nipmuc. It's the same as last year, $4,990. Milfoil management and outlined for, if there's an algae bloom, what the total would be for that, 2,100. And so authorization to pay the bill.
Right, so
I don't know.
what I'd ask for
Sure.
is I'd like a motion to, let me rephrase it. When we pay them the money, that doesn't end our involvement. What would then happen is our paying them would allow the company to go and file the DEP paperwork. Since they want to use different chemicals, they're probably going to be an NOI. Isabel, water quality, you invasive species and chemical monitoring would be talking with them about exactly what chemicals they might be using and whether we're going to ask them to change what they've done in the past. So I would now ask for a vote to authorize paying their quote.
Is this accepting a bid for next year's work? This isn't paying for last.
No, this is, this,
Last year's was the same exact thing.
Right, so it sounds like we're getting a good deal because inflation hasn't kicked in, but it's still very flexible because they're never quite sure how much they're gonna do. And also new this year is new chemicals. So basically it's like a retainer, right? The same
Well,
amount of
they-
money and.
if we ask them to use more expensive chemicals, they probably change the quote. This is to get the process going. In addition, we want to start as early as possible. Dan Byer, Parks and Recreation, wants the treatment done so he doesn't have to close the beach.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid for lake pond management.
Is there a second? Okay, Bob, you had a question?
Is this wetlands, water and wetlands, is
Mhm.
this their quote?
Yep.
And is this when they went around the lake last fall? They were showing
Yes.
where all the weeds that were starting to show. And then they had one resident concerned about excessive weeds near their property.
I haven't been updated on that
Yes,
specific.
that paid,
yeah.
last year paid for that survey, which should
Yeah.
inform their work going forward this year.
The quote has,
Also be flexible because they'll survey it again in the spring. They might come up with something else.
Ah,
we're talking about the water and wetlands quote.
did you hear me say your name?
See if you guys are still going.
Yeah.
We wonder not.
We had 3 ecological disasters to deal with, so we had lots of citizen participation. So we're going to, we're now discussing a motion to pay the quote that wetlands, water and wetlands is asking for such that we can start doing the DEP paperwork to make sure it gets done in time for you to not close the beach.
Okay, yeah, I don't know, it was on those emails, there was some question of whether you needed a new order.
I think that'll,
Be extended or what.
They said that especially to do the fragmentase treatment in the late fall, they are definitely going to want to do a new NOI. Our paying the bill will allow them to file paperwork with Mass DEP, at which point they come back to us and we would schedule hearings or do whatever else is needed to review the paperwork. Yep.
Since this is a great pond, can we get any state help with this? Because it's a great pond.
That's a great
Well,
question to ask our
DEP
Chapter 91 consultant when we eventually get one.
I mean, the chemicals being used are standard and most ponds do have pre-treatment early in the summer. So this is like a pretty standard procedure. My hesitation to like changing any chemicals or anything would be that I haven't observed milfoil growth over the summer and I wouldn't want to suggest changing anything because, looking back, even in the 70s, these same chemicals were being applied. So this is something that
But in
has
the
always
70s,
been.
Didn't they use the stuff that killed all the bird eggs? Made all the,
No, that got banned in the 70s.
That was the 60s.
Somebody had a bottle.
But Bob, I think the answer to your question is no, the state does not fund pond management. It's.
Yeah, I mean, the order of conditions, DEP will review the order of conditions as well. So if they have a problem, they will appeal that.
I wasn't worried about the order of condition. I was looking for help to
Yeah.
try and get the weed management done in a more efficient manner for us.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
So we have a motion on the table to approve paying the quote. Is any further discussion? Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Tim is dropped off, so he will not be voting. Other than that, it is unanimous.
And how's Bob Sweet? Is that your wife looking over your shoulder?
his iPad.
That's me.
His little tablet, so he can, so his middle-aged eyes can see it instead of having to walk up there. All right, so that one's checked off. Next.
But not out of the question.
The next correspondence I have is 74 North Bridge signatures and 42 Millville signatures. 74 North Bridge was the, I mean, I can pass the signatures at the end, but 74 North Bridge was an extension of order of conditions, which was already voted on. And then 42 Millville was the property who had the expired order of conditions in 2016. And, writing the enforcement order shows that we've checked in on this. And then when we do the certificate of compliance, it's on an enforcement order from this year and not an expired conditions in 2016.
That's old business that we worked out and now we're just signing off on it.
So pass them around, right? Some signatures required. Want to conduct other business while we're waiting to sign, or?
Yeah.
The next one is 75B Maury Street. We've gotten emails about he wants to cut down trees within the buffer zone.
Yeah, I was looking at that. That's,
Yes, so he sent me this email circling this area, and this is a stream and wetland buffer. And he wants to cut down 6 trees. One, he said, is specifically close to his roof. And so I told him procedure should be that he submits a request for determination.
definitely.
He would need to do that probably tomorrow or Monday, and then I would post the public notice in the paper and he'd come before you all. Carl mentioned that if it is really touching the tree, it could be an emergency removal. But so that would be something to expect in our next meeting.
I'm not quite sure of the scale there, but say the house is like 40 feet. I personally don't have a problem saying, you know,
So,
within 30 feet of the house, but it looks like there's a big old tree up front, so, you know, it's like. I don't know.
yeah, so, and also the thing is the stream on Mass GIS is much farther away from the house compared to the picture he submitted outlining the stream. And so I think that would, like, here's GIS footage from 2021 where you see the stream here. And here you see the 100-foot line.
Yeah, it kind of curves then, just some curvy there.
Yeah, so I don't know if we'd want to do like site walk for which trees, or I don't know what
I
the,
would authorize you to go out and look at it and give your best or
I'm
Leah
happy
wants to go
to.
for.
I worry if he cuts down 6 trees, what kind of, I mean, he's taking out a lot of what's gonna hold water, you know? So
yeah,
that
so
may,
the things I would ask for is that, you know, he doesn't disturb the soil, he leaves the roots.
yeah, just leave a stump.
That's,
But I don't, if he's worried about his house, I wouldn't want to stop him from removing
Oh,
that
yeah,
tree.
yeah, but you could be more selective than just chopping down 6 trees.
Right. And so I don't know, RDAs, I mean, you could require, depending on the diameter at breast height, you could require 2 new trees for over 20 feet in a sized tree.
These trees are in the wetland or just?
So they're in the stream 200-foot buffer they're within, yes.
the house is pretty much in the buffer. The scale there, but.
Yeah, so
In terms of the emergency situation, if there's a substantial tree part leaning up against his roof, that's an emergency and we would say, go ahead and do that and we'll, before it gets worse. But otherwise, if it'll wait,
75
if it'll
feet
wait
either.
another 2 weeks, then come on in and talk with us about it.
Yeah.
And I expect that our usual conditions would be no heavy machinery on, you can drive heavy machinery onto existing pavement. You can grind down to the surface, but no grubbing of roots and no ruts or tracks when you're hauling things in and out of the wetlands. So we'll see, we'll see what happens in the next 2 weeks, how he wants to proceed with that.
I'm happy to do a site walk. It's right around the corner from me.
next, Ann Mazar forwarded an email about inland dredging pilot round from Mass Dredging Program. There's a event on, or not an event, but there's a virtual meeting someday. It doesn't want to show me. And that's
Where
one,
would we do dredging, like Nipmuc? Yes.
yeah, so,
Remember I was
so
saying
John,
we weren't going to talk about dredging in the lake until later? Well, this might be part of it.
yeah, so John Nenart has suggested part of his remediation be dredging. I think that's a little bit, I think once he finds out the price, he's gonna back out of that offer. I'm excited.
For the plan.
I don't know, have you ever dredged Lake Nipmuc? Has that ever
That's
happened?
my memory. Has the lake ever been dredged? I know the state dredged out where the delta, so they dredged part of the lake where the catch basins from Route 16.
Right where Route
About
16 is.
15 years ago, there's two catch basins there, so it has been dredged
Near the marina.
It's the
right by the marina, yeah.
The $20,000 lake survey we paid for Kevin paid for a couple years ago, did say that there's a spot in the northern part of the lake where that cove area is that was a little shallower than it would be healthy.
And
to
that's
be.
where the neighbor comes and cleans the
Right.
guy there.
So,
So, yeah, let's,
so this is something I'm now,
we have the time to do it.
again, trying, as soon as the Lake Nipmuc Task Force has a meeting, it's something I want to refer to them and to look into this.
Was that scheduled or it says?
Yes, so it is on the 23rd at noon and it's virtual, so anyone can
January
hop on.
23rd?
Yeah, I can send out.
The
Yep.
reference.
Because I'm interested in this. I worked on Nantucket and there's a lot of old lore of what's down in the bottom with DET barrels and whatever. So I would be curious if we were to dredge Lake Nipmuc, kind of
What we
what
would
sorts
find?
of, yeah, what we would find from the old, merry-go-round and all those would have been
Yeah.
painted bright colors with lead and arsenic and,
I don't think so. We're not working that deep. But Nipmuc has a pretty benign history.
Well, there was that big merry-go-round park back in the
Right, they rolled it into
1910s,
the-
19 odds.
Tracks were still in there.
Sold off for
Yep.
collectors.
yeah. But, so that's that one. Next is, I also got a quote from G&H on resetting the boundary markers. They gave slightly more specific service details, office calculations, $175, field survey to establish corners to be reset, $550, survey to set the 4 iron rods with caps, $1,075,
Okay.
totaled at $1,800.
This is agenda item 7A, review actions being taken at 43 Quistit Road. Take
Was that the
action.
same price as what they offered?
Yes, so I asked,
Yeah, right?
yep, I asked for the detail.
I'm okay with spending that. Are we gonna ask the preservation or we're paying for that? Who's paying for that?
We are.
We have money
We
to pay
have
for
money
it?
in a budget.
Thanks,
for that?
Carl.
No, Peter's the one who made the motion.
No, what motion did I make? To approve it?
You
Yeah.
made the motion for us to pay for it.
What line items are gonna come out of our budget?
I,
Can't spend money you don't have.
Who paid for the initial installation? Probably CPA money, right?
Right.
In order to make it happen. So even if I had made that motion, I would want to, yes, let's go ahead and pay it, but let's also, well, before we check in with Ann Mazar, because I know they have some money for signage. And this to me is,
I'm meeting with her on Tuesday, so we can,
ask
I
her if
can ask
there's
her.
some money in the CPA
Yeah.
budget for.
I do kind of think, contract services is a general budget. We didn't spend a total of 11,000 for Lake Nipmuc, so we could spend some of the contract services money to cover this. Even though it's kind of a bizarre contract service, but
We'll be discussing that budget stuff later on as we work our way through. Yeah.
I was just gonna add, I missed the beginning of this, but if this is related to maintenance of a conservation space, I believe that's what that larger, whatever it's called, recreation fund reserve, some of the fees are set aside, so there is an account that I think is intended for that.
yeah.
Use.
Yep, so outside of the general fund, there's 2 revolving accounts for Conservation Commission. There's the RAP revenue, which I don't have off the top of my head. I believe the wetland RAP revenue comes from filings of the NOI. And this is specifically set up by Massachusetts under the Concom Act. And that is only used towards wetland things. The conservation revolving account is separate, and I think that can go towards the conservation land we own. But I also have a meeting with Jody, the accountant, to go over how I can use those 2 accounts. And those are outside of the general fund and don't get voted on year to year. And they have highly large balances.
Well, Mr. Chair, I guess I'd make a motion that we hold off on paying this until after you've met with Ann Mazar and see if she has budget money that's more appropriate to spend.
We don't need a motion to not spend money, so.
Well,
Just have a motion to spend
if,
money.
if she says no, no, we're,
They said,
that can maybe wait till our next meeting, so it
yeah, they said that they are waiting for my approval to move forward. So,
doesn't have to be done next week.
yeah.
If the ground is frozen, they can still.
So can you make a motion?
Yeah,
They
go
can
into
dig from the ground.
Contingent
No,
on Ann?
no, we'll wait and, we don't need to say anything at this point. We already made a motion to pay for it. Now it's just whether we pay for this particular quote.
Table the motion.
Yeah.
Table
So
the item.
we'll just sort of ignore it. Dale Burnett Black at the second.
The next motion will be to vote on what account is coming out of.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay. Any other correspondence?
No.
Okay, agenda item number 6, Meadowbrook Woods, continue discussion on Bog Bridge and and take any action required. Leah.
Okay,
I've noticed a lot of email the past couple of
there's
days.
been quite the email thread. Anne is gonna get us 2 signs to post. I don't know if Isabella took a picture of what the sign will look like, but I have it in my computer here. So those will go up.
Do we need any DEP paperwork to put up signs?
No.
No,
Okay.
that's the sign right there.
This will
And-
stop the private boundary trespassing.
And people have been putting stepping stones down. So,
Oh, so we're not doing the bridge, we're getting
well,
up by with
this was our,
particularly placed stones?
this
Well,
was
we'll need to,
revisit it.
yeah, we'll need to decide how we want to do an NOI. I'm hoping that when meeting with Ann Mazar, I can kind of better understand, what the relationship with managing our conservation land has been and who would be the one kind of leading this NOI submittal.
And I did check with Jared, we locked the property owner, and he said 2 signs would be enough, so. I think we're good there.
Okay, so this can go on the back burner for the stone, these 2 signs and the stepping stones should allow the steady stream of hikers to not infringe on his property and instead, and also hikers won't get their feet wet because they'll just go on the stones.
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
And the stone it being 4 inch.
There-
No, they're not. They're being sourced from right around the area. They're not being taken from the stone wall either.
Right, and
If you keep walking on the trail, the upland area is very rocky and kind of uneven terrain. So Ann Mazar suggested taking some stones from that area and bringing them down.
I knew the property owner volunteered his trailer and his neighbor volunteered to help bring stones to use.
And they would go on his private property, which is close enough to pick something up from the trailer and carry it on over
So the DEP is okay with altering the wetland.
with stepping stones as
With
described.
stones sourced from the place that don't,
Yes, locally sourced stepping stones.
she said, she said, I'm not going to come and check on the fact that there's new stones there. So that was her temporary suggestion. It came from our circuit rider.
Okay,
Since prevails.
all right. Agenda item 7B, update on referral for Gaskill conservation restriction. Referred it to the board, to the select board, said we approve.
Still pending. It's not on the select board agenda yet, so.
Okay. Agenda item 8, Sylvan Springs monitoring, review site introspection report of December 15th and take any action required. And also, there is a site walk again planned for tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Yep.
10 a.m. Okay,
Yeah, so I went on the site walk after our last meeting, joint with the Upton conservation agent, and this was the only area that I really had concerns on. These are his pictures showing that they haven't, this is the wetland, there's obvious sediment in the wetland. Upstream, they began to dig a new basin 4, they're calling it. And it's here is kind of the check dam they've put in as they're building it. But so there was a lot of sediment runoff from this basin prior to putting the stone and berm. And so I would like to see him rehang the wetland flagging because those are not in this particular wetland. And he also has offered to hand rake out the sediment that had ended up in the wetland. And so those are the two things I'm following up on in the walk tomorrow. Deshang, the wetland consultant.
Is detention basin 4, is that the one on the top of the hill, right before the neighbors of existing property?
It's such a big site. The best I would say is when you first turn into the lake road to go up there, there's the big box culvert and it's the right up on that lot. It's called lot 65. I guess I can show it on what's the it's like somewhere right in this road right here. So it doesn't even kind of show up as a wetland, but
Wetlands are off his property, right? They're off to the right.
um yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have the actual like street address, so I'm not sure where in. I don't know where the, you know, the NOI and all those plans are, so I need to find.
Well, I would recommend accepting Deshang's offer of cleaning it out, following his recommendation, where you probably better sooner than later, right?
Right, so the Upton agent recommended to me to issue an enforcement order to get him to do it as soon as possible. I didn't want to move forward doing that since, you know, I'm new and all that.
Do it. Force.
He's wanting the paper trail, so I'll make a motion that we should issue an enforcement order to repair the small amount of erosion that is in the wetland.
Is there a second?
Second, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Leo seconds.
Third.
Any further discussion?
So get from him as to what he's gonna do.
Well, I think I would only issue it if, you know, tomorrow it's like not evident that he's planning to actively do this kind of with the storms coming in.
Okay, so the motion is to authorize her to move forward with an EO if she feels it necessary,
There you go. I'll
not
modify it to-
requiring her to do it.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Is Tim on yet? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Could you say a little more about what the concerns are of the conservation agent for Upton and what they might ask us to be doing on Mendon property?
She was just kind of helping me out as a new agent who hasn't done construction site walks before. You know, the enforcement order that she sent us in December was for the same issue, just on the Upton side, you know, sediment in the wetland without wetland flagging. And so that's why she recommended I do the same thing.
So this is just repeating an issue that they've already identified, and now we're going to be doing it on our end as well. Okay. Item number 9, Lake Nipmuc Task Force. So we actually also have Dan in the audience. So what's up? What's the Lake Task Force been doing lately?
So we didn't end up having a quorum the last time, but we ended up, I think it was myself, Isabella and Joyce. So that was good to just kind of review the background. We kind of dragged her into the mix, so we got somebody else that can help us figure out what the heck is going on.
Okay, my input is if you can't get a quorum, go back to the select board and ask for a change of membership.
Well, no, I think we're good. It was just bad timing. It wasn't- yeah, Bob was away. I think John's dealing with all the roads and the mess, and then we're trying to schedule another meeting. I don't want to be negative. I think we're moving in the right direction. I think I had reached out to Isabella to get a bunch of feedback on coming up with a plan for a more regimented testing scheme, if you will. And I think, you know, she did a bunch of research on various equipment, which was helpful. And then I know I think you may already mentioned about the chapter, what is it, 91?
Okay,
And I don't know if you were part of the last meeting, but I reached out to Fred and Fred said he is willing to help with the water gauge and to go over the elevations and whatnot where the boards are in the dam.
Cool, yeah, I think, and I haven't had time to follow up. I know Isabella found out, I think there might be some equipment we can purchase for not a lot of money to set up an automated water gauge measurement.
Oh, that'd be good.
Which I think, you know, for a couple $1,000, that's money well spent. But it might be worth also getting some analog backups. I know we talked.
Well, Mr. Chair, I guess that's pretty neat, but I don't think we need that. We just need a stick put in the lake. And I'm wondering, like a permanent installation, is there a dock or something out there?
So I think that's what Bob mentioned. So
It's gonna be so much cheaper and much easier to use.
and like you have there's a couple spots you have like a block wall.
Yeah.
So you could say that's X feet.
And then
Now
people
we
wanted to
have
know is it
that-
high or low?
Right, that's what I'm gonna work with Fred on to
Absolutely.
get the mean height of the water. And also the height of where the dam is. So that way there, we have an established height to work from.
Keep it simple. Couple
And that way
places,
there,
yeah.
when we get that median height, we'll be able to determine whether or not the water is higher, lower, or where it is and how to track it.
Yes, but from a scientific point of view, having a reading whenever you want one is always good too.
Why would you both? I think.
Yeah.
I'm a big, the more we can get, the better. I think that's where we've fallen down over the years on this is if we can really collect more information and figure out what's going on, then you guys are in a better place to understand, make your decision.
And then there's no kerfuffle, you know what I mean? Like, we have the information, it's, digitally, we have it
No,
visually.
it's electronic and it's a battery operated. It's not gonna be cheap.
No, no, these are simple. The Hobo device is one that I saw it. These are the ones I monitored on Nantucket. They're in all of the Great Ponds. The Town Natural Resource Department does the same thing. No, I have not seen one die, and I was there a whole summer. So,
That does the height.
so yeah, it's basically a device that's just in the water. We can decide, what level of device how much we want to pay for it. They would either go out there once a week, download the data, or we get one with its own not satellite, but its own Bluetooth thing that transmits constantly. So we would never have to go out there.
this is
But
more
I
like,
think these are task force
yeah. One
discussions.
of the things I'll ask you to do is track the hours you're spending on it so that we can use it as further evidence to get you a full-time position.
Can I make a motion? Can we have Isabella full-time?
No, I have some context of the USGS and also the Mass State Geologist. I mean, it's a great pond. They should have a USGS gauge.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, I can ask.
Okay, so when's the next task force meeting?
It's usually the third Tuesday of the month.
Okay,
Yesterday. So we were gonna meet on the 16th, but Isabella wasn't available. So we had sent her an email. So I don't know when you're available since you're here, or we can chat after the meeting.
chat
The
after,
plan was to meet in January though.
and then let Peter know so he can show up and grump about paying for things.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, will you? I don't, apparently I'm not getting the emails from the task force.
Do you get the town email? We'll talk after.
Yep.
I can donate. I got
All right,
$5.
agenda item 10, National Grid Operational Plan Review. Here update from Leah Whiting regarding the 2024 yearly operational plan from National Grid as per 333 CMR 11.06 and take any action required.
Okay, so I spoke with Marie Claire. This would be a name for you, Carl. I picked her brain for a good half an hour, and she's their principal vegetation specialist at National Grid. And basically, MDR, the state, our Mass Department of Agriculture, regulates the use of the herbicides on right-ways, railroads, power lines. We can't control what they spray. We can't tell them when to spray. The only thing that we can get them to do is we can say, we have more sensitive areas that we would like to suggest, and all they do is buffer there. They'll still spray, but they'll just have a buffer. So there's not much we can do. I did do some research into the chemicals that they will use. And so the ones in yellow are the really bad ones. And then this is probably a good spreadsheet. I still have to finish the bottom for the aquatic chemicals as well. But this is a good spreadsheet for us to have to kind of get to know some of the chemicals, the products names, what they're used for, you know, their toxicity, all that kind of good information there.
I thought that it was, if you could make the argument like a public water supply, and so in Mendon, we don't have public
Well,
water,
on that,
but everybody has wells.
Right.
So couldn't you say
Nope.
within 200 feet of a well, and then who's gonna say where the wells are? You know, that's
well,
not public.
they do notify the Board of Health, and the Board of Health will notify.
So it's up to the
anyone that's
homeowner
impacted.
to say, my well's within 200 feet of, or pick a number of the right of way.
That would be a
I don't
sensitive
want
area,
to,
yes.
so that's,
In other words, we kind of have our hands tied in this situation. There's not much that we can do, you
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
And I poked and prodded at her to
Mhm.
see where there was wiggle room, if any. And she was pretty clear. There wasn't a lot of wiggle room, so. That was a nice conversation for her to have to deal with that day.
well, you got an education. Good.
So are there any sensitive areas that we should be asking them to buffer that are related to conservation lands as opposed to individual
Is
homeowners?
there any endangered species in any of those? You one would
Right,
think.
I mean, do we have the bandwidth to do that, though? That's a lot.
I don't know, do you?
I don't.
Probably
Not this year.
I mean, that's a project, you know?
Talk to my friend at Eversource, see what they do.
I did, Eversource is good. We don't have to worry
I
about.
mean, not the chemicals, but I mean, what do they do about the,
Buffering?
yeah, the endangered species and whatnot?
Sensitive.
Like, I know that they take a lot of proactive things like building bat boxes and this and that.
Yeah, Colonel's not gonna be affected.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Or-
who knows?
I don't know.
No, I just worry, like, when trees are dormant and they have to spray chemicals, they're usually really bad chemicals, you know what I mean? Like, because they have to systematically kill that tree in dormancy, you know? So it freaks me out, all the stuff they spray. But she said that they're contracted and licensed. And they don't do a lot of, you know, they don't have a backpack on their back, and, you know, they're not napalming things. They're trying to be selective, so. But the thing that bothers me the most is that she said, we look for the large trees that are in the way, and that's what we usually focus on. And it's just like, you know, it's just.
If it's in a right of way, it's gotta go.
Yeah.
That's the one that they can't have.
Okay,
Anyway, that was fun.
any further discussion on item 10? Okay, item 11, Concom online signing. Isabel, status?
Yeah, so the certificate of vote was recorded with the Worcester Registry of Deeds, booking number 735, page 263. I'll start there's a description I'll add in the top of our order of conditions, anything we signed. And then you all we don't need to license any sort of signing thing. You can just type your name in, you can italicize it, cursive it, whatever you want to do. Very simple, just type it in. If you don't want to type it in, I'd ask, you know, come down to my office or I'll bring them to meetings, but some forms require one signature and it can be me. So everything else can be signed. A wet signature, yes. Yep.
Okay, so we will now stop having a bottleneck of having to shuffle paper around at meetings if people are able to do that online. All right, agenda item number 12, review building permits. Nothing on COM-23-12 149 Uxbridge Road. Have you heard anything?
No, but again, I think it's fine.
Okay. RES-23-338 17 Thayer Street, there has been some activity. The applicant did add some additional documentation which provides more information, but not enough clarity for us to complete our Concom review. John Erickson is going to be reaching out to the applicant for further details on exactly where it is and what the siding is. At that, when that information comes forward, Isabella and I would then approve that. It looked
John
like
Erickson is who?
our
Building inspector.
There's one other building permit related activity, 123 North Road. They're building a very large outbuilding that has not been permitted. So I spoke with John Naynard about this last Wednesday, and he said definitely needs a permit. I'll get someone to submit that. There wasn't one on Wednesday. I sent an email to John Erickson saying there's no building permit. What's up with this? If there's no activity by next week, I'm going to start making much larger noises about why Kevin Meehan's property isn't getting a building permit pulled.
What address is that?
123 North Avenue. It's
It's
right
his-
next to Misco Road. Where
his
by the
mansion.
by the middle school.
Castle.
Oh, that's.
Right, the big place right on the corner.
Well, he's now building another large building, and it is unclear whether it is within 100 feet of the
The pond.
of the pond.
It looks like it's really close from the map.
I have sent John Erickson a Mass GIS locus. If you bring up the email,
So it's a separate building.
it is a new building. Yeah. If you
It's back here somewhere, right?
yes.
How many
Now-
buildings or how many units can you have on one lot?
Well, that is what I've asked the building part, John Erickson, to say. It's a building.
Right,
Has it
that's
been
all
permitted?
Yeah.
If it-
I would say if it is right here, I haven't driven by, so I haven't seen it yet, but I would say we're in our rights to issue cease and desist for him to bring an NOI or some sort of.
Well, I'm giving John Erickson and the building department a chance before I go and beat up John Nenard again.
There you go. Okay.
So as I said, if I don't,
Park or something going in?
How far along
There's a
is it?
pool and that has a permit.
he has a permit for an above ground swimming pool with electrical connections. But there is no permit for this new outbuilding, and I will be reaching out to making much more of a stink of it because, I live right up the road. And I've
You
been,
can see it every day.
I live right there.
well,
which
it's,
is great.
it's not a question of seeing it. It's that I spoke with John Nenard. He said he would make sure the right paperwork got pulled. If it's not gonna get pulled, I'm gonna get, in his face a bit more.
How far along is it?
They have completed the foundation. They have completed the framing. They are now having
Oh, wow.
a crane coming in to put the roof on, and they are starting to build siding.
My husband mentioned that they bought.
Does it look like
really
it's-
Structures. yeah.
Does it look like it's more than one floor or can you tell?
I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to say there is no building permit that has been filed, and I'm annoyed at it. So I will be following up.
Is it big?
It
It's
is
not like just like a little tiny
No,
pool
it is,
shed
it
or
is like
something?
30 by 80 or
Oh, geez.
30 by, it is,
Okay.
it is as big as a small house.
Is it in,
30 by 80 is not a small house.
is it in a resource area?
Bigger than
Looks
mine.
like
It's-
it's.
Here's the wetland, so yes.
Actually is here.
Not as big as that.
Problem is that the building permit was issued for this here, when the building permit was issued for the pool, the people on the Concom who were approving building permits just said not jurisdictional. As far as I know, there has been no flagging done on this parcel. So now John Nenart and Kevin are in the unfortunate circumstance of there's a silt fence, there's a border, there's a boundary, and there's area up here.
So somebody put up erosion control.
There, yeah, definitely. We've had people from the Concom going out to the site and saying, yes, the erosion control is in place so that and I can see from coming down here, yeah, there's nothing flowing in. The question is this this was never checked and for flagged for whether this is a true wetland or not. And if they're putting a building in here, where is the wetland? There's been no flagging. So as I said, we'll see how it plays out.
What street is that?
North.
Bisco Road and North Ave.
Yeah.
134 North Avenue.
You know, oh, it's right across the street.
Live pretty close.
Gary Smith is gonna build on the other side of the street, or Gannett was on the corner.
Oh, the library museum,
Yes.
supposedly.
So that is a building permit that should probably be there.
Nine Santa Claus, like.
That's in the barn across the street, yes.
I know, yes.
Okay, moving along, review annual budget and budget proposal, sorry, review annual report and budget proposal. You have printed out the the first draft of the report. I will be going over with Isabella and finalizing it next week. If you have comments, please let us know.
It is due on the 15th. I'm sure they're not gonna kick me for being late, but
Yeah.
I'd like to not be too late. So what I did was kind of look at the towns around us. I added some more language, what the commission is, what our granting authority is and what we look at. And then I did my best to go through the agendas and the filed paperwork to do the totals of the NOIs and the RDAs and everything. Might be wrong. And, I'm not gonna watch all the videos by next Monday, so I don't know how you all voted. And so things like violations, I just left it vague, responded to violations, approved emergency tree removals, not specific. This is the first time there's any talk about having, or this is the first time there's language on conservation restrictions and conservation land. That's kind of a big part of the Concom, in my opinion. So I wanted it to be in the annual report. I worked with Ann Mazar to have the proper language and the right, kudos to the people who worked on it. And I also think the total acreage that you all added this past year is really important. Over 175 acres is like a big win. And I wanted that in the plan or in the report. What Lake Nipmuc treatment, new Lake Nipmuc task force, beaver totals, new member Leah, reappointed Carl, chair, and then when the commission does hybrid meetings.
I might just say the commission did not appoint a new member, the selectmen. But
No, the select board.
the select board, there you go. Because we really had nothing to do with, we interviewed.
We
can't-
voiced our opinion.
Select
Select
space.
board.
Made a recommendation, but they appointed. But we definitely,
What are you saying?
you're to thank the select board for being, don't thank us.
Okay.
The only other thing, this is for what time period?
This is for,
The
Uh,
2023 annual report,
it's for the last fiscal year, in effect. This
Not-
will get
not the-
Last June?
not the budget year. I think it's running
Calendar year.
January to December.
Okay. This gets
Bas-
printed
yeah.
in the big thing they hand out at town meeting.
So it would include work we did last month.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it needs to go in here, but one thing I want to learn from the things that happened tonight is we're responding to two unknowing owners doing work in the buffer. So somehow we've got to get the word out that
That's a
any
good
work
idea.
done within, and so I don't know if this is the vehicle or just a
I
sentence.
have plans when we get a full-time person, hopefully, that we update our website to specifically have an FAQ that says, I want to do the following things. What do I do? Or
Yeah.
why do I have to get a paperwork permission to do the following things? Most of our surrounding towns have things like that we can crib from. It's just a question of Isabella sitting down and working with the web software to make that kind of thing happen.
Yeah, and Upton does have more language on, in their 2022 annual report. If I look at that, they talk about the increase in development in our area. They talk about increase of people not speaking English as their first language. So that is something I can incorporate and send out edits. But I don't want to do it over the weekend, so.
There you go. Wonderful job and
Okay.
good enough. Thank you. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then,
Second half of that is budget proposal.
yeah, so,
You got access to spring something?
yeah, so I'm on the town, Springbrook is how they do their budget or, yeah, but, so my access is as we get NOIs and filing fees and posting in the paper and taking those fees, I now have the ability to deposit those checks directly. Invoices and all that kind of stuff still goes not through me, but gets brought in. So anything being withdrawn goes to Tracy or Jody, but things that are being deposited, I can now do. And so that's helpful because now I'm able to also print out our totals. There's a copy in Mike's binder, and then there's a second one here. I can also put on SharePoint up on the big screen. But those kind of show what's been taken out since June. It's not much. It's the 425 is the Beaver invoice from Alan. 975.
Cheats to kill beaver.
We've been frugal.
Yeah, it's 65 training, 80 supplies. Some of them I just got this today, so I haven't totally looked at it. So our totals are all here, and I figured out that the beaver management and Lake Nipmuc weed control have been consolidated into a contract services line. That's something I'm meeting with Jody again because we ran out of time, but contract services is very vague, and I don't know if people would rather have it be specified, broken out again.
I thought about it since you said this earlier. The beaver amount is variable and it gets refunded to the general fund, assuming we don't have to do that, trap many beavers. Whereas the Lake Nipmuc Consulting Services is a fixed fee that we are going to pay all the time. So I would want to have them broken out into two separate items. That way, if a question comes up during town meeting, we can say, this is a fixed one, this is variable. And so please don't cut the lake treatment or Dan Byer will have a heart attack.
No, we've got it in the budget. Let's not lose it, right? It's
Yeah.
there. So
I also want to check in with Board of Health because I think they also have a budget. The only one I'm proposing to increase is travel and training. If we're all going to the MACC conference in March and those kinds of things, I think adding to the training budget isn't going to hurt. The other thing I wanted to bring up is there's a wetland delineation certification from UNH that Mia at the circuit writer at Worcester recommended as a good start for me. And that totals, it's in somewhere. And so this is, something I don't know. I don't know.
or you'd go up there or something or a little.
Yeah, so there's 7 different classes I do. There's, sorry, it's loading.
Pretend I'm on the finance committee.
Yeah, so it's,
Benefit to the town if you taking this training. What will it help us to save money on?
so there's advanced, I'll just say the breakdown of the classes is advanced ID documenting hydric soils. This would be being able to auger this soil in a wetland and say this is soil. Wetland function and value, expressing to the public the importance of our wetlands. There's going to be wetland site plans and reviewing engineering plans. And then there's winter plant ID and summer plant ID. So it's 5 classes and it totals up to about 1,500. The class breakdown is also here.
Provide better protection to the wetlands because
And I'd also,
staff is more knowledgeable.
yeah, and I'd be able to, look at wetland flagging done by someone who's hired.
License, or do they give you some kind of?
It's a certification. So I mean,
I think that's a great idea.
yeah, and it's, the
Better hurry.
general budget, the general budget for this year, as long as I don't go over the total amount for Concom, the line items, can go into a negative. And so if MACC, new members also had MECC certification trainings this year. I think we're gonna go over the $1,000. We're already at close to 900. And so showing we're in the deficit already, you know, I think increasing the budget is
Right, well,
gonna be approved.
I'm not concerned
What are
about
we
asking.
running into a deficit on?
The training budget.
Okay. Why don't you, when you talk with Jody, have her set up, we're gonna do some more training?
Yeah.
Is everybody interested in more training?
Sure.
Set up ask for a finance committee reserve fund training.
No, I haven't asked. for
I don't
that.
think we need a transfer because we're not gonna go over our total budget. I guess I got ahead of myself. I was just wondering if me getting the wetland certification at UNH is, I don't know how approvals for the finance,
It's a
but
good thing, and if we have it, it should be
Well,
spent for.
I'll repeat my question. Pretend I'm on the finance committee. What is the value to the town of us paying for you to take that training?
I think if, you know, I think a lot of the wetlands, you know, shown today with the applicant, the housings that haven't been properly taken care of, I think having a specific certification on top of my degree is gonna show applicants, property owners, John Nenart, who shows up, you know, having the certification will show that I'm learning and that I'm qualified to go on these site walks with other people.
Okay.
I'll
let me-
take it one step further than that. If you have that certification, then you can also intelligently go on sites and make determinations as to whether the wetlands are accurately flagged.
Which is gonna save us money in the long run. 'cause we
Right,
don't
this is, I'm saying, I'm on the finance committee. Tell me how you getting the training will save the town money.
Okay, yeah,
So
right.
Answer that question.
Yeah, we won't have to hire outside consultants to peer review.
And the other one I would say is, right now, much of those activities are being done on a volunteer basis by that end of the room. And you having the professional training will mean that we do not have to rely on their expertise if they are not available. And the other part of it is to say, you're getting the training will help allow the town to further protect the conservation assets of the town.
You writing this down?
So
Yeah.
Mike, you're
It's in the minutes.
You're fine.
Exactly right.
I agree with
I knew what you were doing. You're getting ready to.
You've talked to the finance committee before. Is that the kind of thing they're going to be drilling down into?
I hold a seat. Fine.
Okay. Okay, I didn't say
Allow her
anything
to
then.
Use the equipment that we have, a soil logger, in the appropriate manner.
We have a.
We have a soil logger.
Soil logger.
Yeah, it's up in the library. I was, yeah, and I mean, I've taken multiple soil classes. I've taken botany classes, you know, I do know quite a bit, but I think to have the kind of engineering lens rather than the science lens is gonna be really important.
I think so too.
Plus,
So let's avoid a lawsuit.
it validates that you know what you're looking at.
Yeah, one of the things that we can talk about with the FinCom and the budgeting people is there's a training budget and but is that different from, would this be, this class be considered professional development?
What's the difference between training and professional development?
Training is happening for us volunteers. Professional development is where she goes and gets a certification, which is,
Gotcha.
which allows her to have better standing in court or when dealing with applicants and other certified engineers.
Yes.
No, I agree with it. Should I, you have to stick around for a bit if we.
Yeah.
Um,
That you do is we may, as part of her negotiating for a full-time position, on completion, what typically happens is that on completion of certification, you automatically get a pay raise in addition to your yearly review, because you've demonstrated that you're now able to, the certification means you're able to save the town money in other areas.
And I don't remember ever doing it, but somebody reviews the position, or is there an annual performance review, or after 6 months? I don't know. Is there any,
That
doing
would
a
be-
great job or?
That's typically done by the town administrator and HR.
Okay.
We have a new HR person and we're about to get a new town administrator. So one of the things I've been saying.
Imagine those two people give this board the courtesy, because she worked for us, to find out, hey, that secretary slash agent slash whatever you wanna label her as, how's she working out with you?
Well, that's why, you know, there's a lot been
So-
thrown on it. So it's like, we need to.
Yeah, I think with the budget proposal will come a salary negotiation with HR, town administrator and Jody. And I'm meeting with Jody again next week. So, the other thing is the wetland revolving account is authorized. There's certain things that can be paid for. So anything in my salary kind of going directly towards the Wetland Protection Act, you can supplement the general fund with those revolving accounts. So say they expand me to full-time and I start doing conservation land work or Lake Nipmuc water quality managing, that would have to be salaried, but then more of the Wetland Protection Act showing up on site, weekly site walks, those hours could come out of the revolving account.
Gotcha, which
Yes.
we've never tapped to date. I know it's not a whole lot of money. but,
Reason is because historically the Mendon Concom doesn't charge applicants fees. We are authorized under the wetlands regulations that in addition to the Mass DEP filing, we could charge applicants money. And a lot of towns, their conservation agent's salary gets a part of all of those fees. If
Okay.
someone is paying $25 to the town for an RDA, she gets part of it. If the town is charging someone $100 for an NOI, she would be getting part of that.
Doesn't the town get a part of it now?
Town used to do that with building permits before you.
Yep.
Moved into town years ago, you should remember this.
Building permits still does have their
Basically,
revolving
they got a
accounts.
percentage of
Yeah.
what the building permit,
Yeah.
i.e. the more building permits that get pushed through.
That's a great system.
Makes more money. At the town, we stopped doing that.
Oh, Gail said today they still do it. I thought, but
The inspectors get paid per inspection, but John Erickson is a salary now.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. The building-
But the notice,
Was a percentage, that's how he got paid for Tim.
but the notice of intent, I thought a part of it went to the state and a part of it went to the town.
And it's
Right,
going
and the
into
town
our,
pocket.
And it goes into that,
into our dedicated line
Which
item.
we've
We're-
never
We
tapped.
haven't been doing anything
Right,
with
so
it.
do we know how much is in that?
That's fine. We
yes,
should
it's
Get the go to pay for something. But.
$42,000.
How much?
$42,000.
For frugal.
We'll eat that up in 2 years. Well, we get to.
So if we
It's not
need
like-
to,
it's
$1,000
not like
bucks
we're
for
a town-
training might be
It's
it.
not like we're a town like Concord that generates a lot more money.
Right.
But I think
Tap into that account, we should save it for specialized things and continue to fund her salary from the general fund.
And or training if we get from elsewhere.
As we start an effort to get her in a full-time position, even if she's not working 40 hours a week for Concom, this would all get put on the table. One possibility is that they combine some of the activities in the planning board zoning field with Concom. We may combine some of the stuff for CPC and land use. It's all going to be up to the new
I
administrator.
don't know how that would work because there's a bylaw now that says you
Yeah,
can't,
that's what I was wondering.
a member can't be part of the.
Two different boards.
But she's an employee.
employee
Yeah.
gets his salary out of Water Commission and Parks and Rec. So it'd be similar to that.
There's restrictions on elected officials.
I gotcha.
Mhm.
But I think in your case, you're just an employee, they can make your position whatever it wants to be.
I think, yeah, the holdup is that we have a town administrator that is hopefully
Yeah,
going
we're
out
a
the
little
door.
worried about- Yeah. we're
Um,
worried, yeah.
There's a search committee. When they find someone, the new administrator will have ideas on how to structure town government and we will work with within their plans. So the other thing Isabel is now doing, working with Dan and Jody and Tracy, is getting a better handle on what those line items mean in our Springbrook.
Springbrook.
In Springbrook, what they mean and what we have the statutory ability to do as opposed to what our past custom has been doing. And then she'll tell me and the rest of us, and we'll see how we want to update doing things in the future.
Okay.
All right, the last one is review and approve minutes. There is a blank spot on one of the 2 minutes that we need to fill in.
Somebody seconded a motion I made.
And she just couldn't hear it from the audio. So who wants to step forward and take credit for that second?
Yeah. What was the motion?
No, first we have to, okay, so we'll now take a motion to approve the minutes for November 9th, 2023. So do I have a motion? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
We will now have discussion. Is this the one that we need to fill in?
Yes, it's on the first page towards the bottom. It's in red. Or it was. It's under, it's right before the Lake Nipmuc Task Force. It says
At
Peter
the
made
top
the
of the
motion.
second page, Peter makes a motion and somebody seconded regarding Quistit. The end of the Quistit discussion before the Lake Nipmuc Task Force.
Right.
To reach out to Ann Mazar and the original surveyors to replace the boundary markers that have been removed. It got passed unanimously. So that was where I was making the motion that we should pay for it, but we should talk to Ann as well. So
Well, I know I didn't second that.
it doesn't really matter, just somebody needs.
I'll second it.
There you go.
Okay, so we can now put in Bob Sweet's name for that. With that being changed, any further discussion before we vote on approving? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Woohoo, minutes!
Where's the champagne?
We will now,
Can we do that here?
Not official.
we will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes for December 14th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Sorry, he beat you out to it.
Let him move it. He's got the motion. I'll let him move. I'll second.
Okay, so now it's the other way. Any discussion on the items in here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on the second page, down at the end, 45 Uxbridge. Discussion, increasing the holding capacity of the retention pond. John Nenart, site engineer. John, love him, is not an engineer. He's the site manager.
Yep.
And that, we need an engineer on that to review, but that's a.
Well, we
out of
now
line.
do have, John Nenart has engaged two, Guerrero and Hanlon as well as Goddard. They're doing two
Is that
different
what
parts
the
of it.
people that were here?
Goddard. was here
Goddards are
today.
not engineers. I want someone reviewing how the drainage might be affected from up. And so that's really a planning board kind of
Yeah.
drainage.
Maybe what he's-
Well, the as-built was done by G&H.
Yeah, that was G&H. So G&H produced the as-built. So he does have
So
that.
that is an engineer for the as-built.
H is an engineer for sure.
You're right.
Okay, so your amendment is to change John Nenart parentheses site engineer to John Nenart parentheses site manager. Correct. Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, that one will do. Any other amendments to the text? Okay, we'll now vote on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 2.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Leah.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're out of here. Meeting adjourns at 4:23.
Woo-hoo. Well, we.
set up an appointment with World Band